It's Friday, January 5th, 2024. So let's look up something, because Lando and I were having a bit of a pre-game discussion where we were trying to figure out
pre-game discussion.
Because our audio,
that's the turn of phrase for this crowd.
It sure is. Here we go. Is this really attributed to Kurt Vonnegut? Well, wow. Apparently it is. This is a Vonnegut quote, which is, "Go take a flying fuck at a rolling donut." Okay, here's somebody. I'm just double checking this. This article is from Kurt Vonnegut's FAQ. Favorite quote among at least a faction of a news group readership. The quote is thought to have originated in Slapstick from 1976. It appears numerous times in that book and actually becomes a bit of a plot point. The quote is, "Why don't you take a flying fuck at a rolling donut? Why don't you take a flying fuck at the moon?" But it was also found in Slaughterhouse-Five. "Go take a flying fuck at a rolling donut," murmured Paul Lazaro in his Azure Nest. "Go take a flying fuck at the moon." This is the earliest known appearance of the quote to date. So it doesn't actually mean anything. It's apparently just a Vonnegut quote.
Okay. I was actually beginning to manifest it in my mind as the idea is you're actively telling someone to try to fuck a rolling donut.
Well, yeah. Well, here's a Slate article. What exactly is a flying fuck, and why does this fuck fly? Flying fuck enjoys many fun literal interpretations. Gadget heads might like the remote-controlled helicopter featured above. Craftier folk, this flying fuck lovingly fashioned from wire hate. What the fuck? Urban Dictionary offers a number of humorous entries for flying fuck, too, including a rare African flightless bird and a rather acrobatic sex act. Speaking of birds, some do hook up mid-flight, at least as part of courtship, not unlike the most adventurous frequent flyers among us. Creativity and Mother Nature aside, the earliest record of flying fuck is in fact a literal one, but let's save the best for last. Oh, wow. I'm going to read this whole article because, well, maybe I won't read the whole article. Okay, so here's the Vonnegut thing. So from 1976's Slapstick. While campaigning for the presidency on a utopian platform to end loneliness by randomly creating extended families, protagonist Dr. Swain advises people to issue these choice words if they hate their new assigned kin. Why don't you take a flying fuck at a rolling donut? Why don't you take a flying fuck at the moon? But what does it mean?
Maybe it doesn't mean anything. Maybe it's specifically there to not mean something.
These examples make me want... So I'm jumping around a little bit, but apparently certain examples make the writer wonder if it's a military term in terms of rolling donut, like a vehicle maneuver. Interesting. This is fascinating. I just assumed that the root of this was known, but no, apparently this may have simply been somebody... I mean, don't get me wrong. I've done this too. I always nicknamed people I didn't like as ass fuck the chipmunk, which means nothing, but I just like the way it sounded when I said it.
It's a rhyme, you know.
So I wonder if that's all this is that Vonnegut came up with a fun turn of phrase, and just applied it. Okay, well then I guess that's the root.
Fuck the chipmunk.
Yeah,
okay.
If somebody did something stupid, like, hey, look at ass fuck the chipmunk over there. It doesn't mean anything. It just
conjured kind of an interesting image, though. I'll give you that.
It doesn't, because I always in my mind, it always just seemed like a cross-eyed chipmunk. Honestly, that's what I thought of when
No, that's what I'm thinking, yeah.
Because there was no name that really rhymes with chipmunk, and it's not that ass fuck does either, but it has the same kind of verbal bounce. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As fuck, the chipmunk. Like it flows correctly. It's like saying bingo,
Sure.
bango, boingo.
There's-
It doesn't mean anything, but it works well, you know? So. Show title, Verbal Bounce. That's great. By the way, I want to start off, before I even get to the shill segment, I did want to read a couple things because I read, and this is in absolute seriousness because I know we just started off with nonsense, but this is actually very, very serious. I read two of the nicest things about our show that I think I've ever read that anybody has written. Because, you know, I'm always amazed that anybody even listens to our show. So here it is. This is the first one. Quote.
Wait. Where'd you find it?
This is on Discord. I'm in a number of Discords, and
okay, yeah. No, because I thought the few reviews that we had on
they're
in the iTunes store were actually quite funny.
No, they're very good. I'm sorry that we lost some of the early ones because there were some really good ones earlier on.
Well, you know, it's all just vapor in the end.
So actually, as it is a new year, if people could do us a favor, write nice reviews, or write it. They don't have to be nice. Write reviews at all. I think that's one of those things where even the bad reviews count for something. Who knows? Whatever.
If you listen, sure, yeah, go for it.
But here it is. Quote. I have no interest in many things the show can cover, but listening to Joe and Lando draws me in and makes me give a shit. Thankfully, I'll be at retirement age by the time I catch up, end quote, meaning that this person is listening chronologically. And then further down, a different person said, in response to that quote, quote, it's like being at a friend's house and you're chilling and bullshitting. Then they get into a deep dive nerd topic and you're like, well, let's see how deep this gets. I listen while I work, do chores and stuff around the house. I used to listen as I drive, but I fully work from home now. Lucky bastard. While my daughter was a baby and I was staying up all night with her, I'd listen to them to stay awake while she napped. I'd be like, let me turn on Uncle Joe, end quote. And I'm like, those are some of the nicest things I've ever read that somebody has said about our show. So thank you very much. I appreciate those things. And on that note, on to our shill segment, where you can send us money by going to patreon.com/Ozone Nightmare, or you can go to the show homepage and you can go to the right side where there's lots of squares that have rounded corners. I don't know why I point that out, because it's not as if there are squares without rounded corners that might misdirect you, but it's easy.
But I enjoy that you do it.
It's a mental tick of some kind. But anyway, those have an array of different things. The PayPal one will take you to a PayPal donation page. The one that has a squat little book with a bookmark will take you to Lando's Amazon author page. The one with the skull will take you to my art link tree. And the one with the YouTube symbol will, naturally, take you to YouTube, where there are videos of our Baldur's Gate playthroughs. And all the shows do post there. And people apparently are at least partially, some people are listening over there. So that's good, because it doesn't cost anything. It just started happening. So that was nice. Yeah. Anyway, that was, did I have anything else to start off with? No.
Dude, I got nothing. I figured I'd start the new year in the way I normally do these things, with absolutely fucking nothing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do have some things. This is up front. I have miscellaneous debris.
Yay!
Which is both
debris.
a good Primus album and a folder that I used for songs.
Miscellaneous debris.
Yes. So I as we were starting off, we were having sound problems once again because because as I think I have now determined, there is some kind of
the gods
fight.
hate us.
Now there's some kind of fight happening between Mac OS and Skype, as far as I can tell, because there's definitely some kind of inter whatever action happening there, and I think that's causing something. So we fortunately have been able to figure it out every time thus far, where we're able to still record. And I'm working with the Rogue Amoeba folks in the background, because I think that they may tell me to do this a new way because of some things that have been going on. That's my suspicion, is they're going to come back and say, yeah, it worked this way before, but now there's been a series of updates, and now we find this is the best way to do it. So we'll see. But in any event, I have some sound clips that I use to test before we record, because one of the fundamental problems we were running into was the sound clips were audible only to one of us, and that was where we were getting tripped up. Which Lando did come up with a solution to that, which was that I could have sent him a copy of the sound clips.
See, this is the simple way to explain this, the push and pull between us.
Yes.
Which is that Joe tries to make everything work the way it should.
Correct.
Right? And that is noble. Whereas I have an approach to, if it's not going to work the way it should, then let's just find the most broke ass solution that goes around the problem, right?
Yes.
So like Joe wants the program, everything to go through the program and for it to work, and that's excellent. But then I live in a world where it's like, well, if it's not going to work, just send me the files and we'll hit play at the same time. And that way we don't need to worry about them being, I am not technologically as sound as Joe, but I do take kind of more of a practical numbskull approach to things.
Well, my thing is more that I want to give an attempt at making it work properly before I default to whatever works. That's just kind of my impulse. Is I think we might be able to get this to work, which we did in this case. I figured out how to make it work 95% the way it did before, with just having to adjust a couple of things. And that way, if I can figure out what the last thing is, then everything works. Because there's a reason I have it all set up this way, which is to make it as easy as possible.
Oh, absolutely.
So that you don't have to do anything really, and I can do most of it on my end. So, and in any event, so I had sound effects that I was playing to test that the audio was working on both sides. Now, this is not one of the ones. None of these are ones that I played as our testing, but I did want to play these because I think they are hilarious. So there is a YouTube channel called, well, it's titled Grimbeard, I believe is the YouTube channel's title. And this is apparently a goth gamer, because he mentions it a bunch of times. And that's either just the channel's thing or this person is actually a goth who reviews games. While I would not describe myself as a goth gamer, I do find his videos very funny. And he covers a lot of obscure titles. And one that he reviewed, I think his most recent one, is for a PS1 game called Michigan Report from Hell, I believe, which apparently is a very janky game that is nonetheless fascinating because of its dysfunction, the way that it's done. And as part of that game, there is one of the voice actors is apparently an individual who appears to be a very cheery person, who is an American, or at least he's a non-Japanese native, who apparently just loved Japan so much that he became kind of a personality over there. His name's Erwin. Oh, God, I can't remember his last name. But anyway, and he does one of the voices on this, probably because he was there and he knew the people making the game. It's a Japanese game. And his voice performance is so outside of what you would expect for this game. My wife and I just cannot stop finding it funny. And so he's playing a character, the premise of the game, it isn't interesting. I actually kind of want to play this. The premise of the game is you are playing a cameraman as part of a news crew who is sent to Michigan, or Chicago, actually. So you're in Chicago, and there has been some kind of supernatural horror event where people are being transformed into monsters. And you are never seen outside. You're always holding the camera, so it's like a camera's point of view, with the bar and the recording and the battery and all that stuff. And you are always the cameraman. You direct people by kind of clicking on things in the environment, but you never leave the camera. You're always behind it. And then there's two other characters. One is the reporter and one is the sound person. The reporter, one of the interesting parts about this game, and I'm going to link to the Grimbeard review because it's such a it's like an hour and a half long. It's great. One of the fascinating things is the reporter can get killed at any time, and it's replaced by another reporter who can also be killed up to, I think, 7 times. 7 different reporters can all get killed. And the story adjusts to it, somewhat like the Walker thing in Breakpoint. But this is a game from 1990, I don't know, 3, 5, something like that. So this is way before, advancements in games that we currently have. But the game keeps just having a random replacement reporter show up conveniently right after the last one gets killed. You just stumble upon the next one. But the sound guy is the one that has this wonderful voice performance, which, everybody else in it is at least trying and seems to be aware they're in a horror game. But the sound guy, I'm just going to play 4 clips. And the 4th clip is the funniest, but this will give you an idea. Now, the first 3 are reactions to one of the reporters dying. And he will actually say the name, I think, of 2 of them. I think it's Pamela, Anna, and maybe Carly. So I think he says 3 names. So I'm just going to play these because they are goddamn hilarious. Oh, I just realized I didn't have the right sound thing. Sorry, my fault. This is one of the things we were figuring out. Let me switch that. So you didn't hear anything, right?
Nope.
That's okay. Here we go. Now it will work. I am very confident. Here we go.
Carly! Carly! Oh my God!
Okay. All right. So, and you will. There's a pattern. So let's play the next one.
Paula! Paula! Oh my God!
God.
I think this one must be Anna. Now I think you're going to hear the sounds of her being eaten in the background on this one.
Ann! Oh my God! Ann!
But by far the best one is this one where they find a dead body in the closet. And so in this one, he reacts by screaming first. And I'm not kidding. I've listened to this probably a dozen times, and it's never not funny. So enjoy this.
Ah! What was a dead body doing in there?
That is the clip. So he goes from that scream straight to what is the dead body doing in there in a very much more casual way.
Game voice acting has come a long way.
Listen, I'm very happy that this was the performance. I want to say that up front. I am very happy that this person did this and didn't try to do more of a nuanced, grounded, because the game doesn't deserve it. The game is too broken for that. So this fits perfectly for what the game needs to be. So I don't want to make it like I wish this person had done. No. This was perfection. This was done perfectly. I would change nothing because just the forced sound effect. Just that never fails to put a smile on my face. So
Good.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I had those clips and I played them for my wife and she was crying. Especially that first one because she had no idea what I was going to play for. I'm like, just listen to this or just watch this.
That should be your like ringer or your text.
I thought about it, but it would be that's too obnoxious for public. You know, it's like because I'm one of the people who keeps my phone off silent, so I don't want everyone to hate me. So
Well, everybody will know when your phone is ringing.
Oh boy, would they?
Remember. I told the story about why I turned my phone off. I don't have a ringer anymore. But like, there used to be a time where I loved having a ringer, and I had Gary Oldman, and I had the T-Rex, and I loved having loud noises that could not be ignored.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh yeah, you didn't have anything. I forgot. You have nothing to start with.
No, I didn't. I was actually just for a moment enjoying that like one moment of silence that we never get that.
We don't ever stop really.
That was a nice little like pause.
Yeah, well, that's because I'm making sure I want to link to that review because I really do. I found this person's channel completely by accident. I really don't.
Yeah,
it is continually pathetic / funny. How YouTube is so fucking bad that it does not recommend things properly. So everything I've found that I really enjoy has been accidental. It is so bad at its algorithm of figuring me out. And it's not like I'm hiding. I don't even do anything because there are people who do all this stuff to try to throw off the algorithm and all that shit. I don't even bother with that with YouTube. I'm like, no, I would like YouTube to actually work properly and show me videos that are good because I like watching funny things and I like supporting creators who are making good things. And it's so terrible at it. And I end up just finding these things accidentally. And so I want to link to this because I think this guy's videos, his style of humor is very funny. And I get his references because he must be either around our age or he's into stuff from the era that we grew up with video games. So his references are actually very good because I understand them. They're not things that are aimed at people half my age that I clearly don't get. He's not using words that I don't know what they mean or, talking about whatever musician is popular among 18-year-olds now because I would have no clue about that. All his stuff is roughly where I know where it is, more or less.
I do find though that I read an article a while back about how a disconnect from modern music is often the beginning of how some people lose kind of touch with society at large, and that how it behooves you to at least be aware of some level of modern popular music, because it helps you to be, for some reason, it helps people be more involved in the culture. Like, it's not to say that you should like only listen to popular music, but you should always look to find something newer that you do like, because it helps to keep you kind of, attached to the to the present. Because otherwise it's very easy to just be like, oh, all modern music is shit, and just listen to like classic rock or some bullshit. You know what I mean? Especially with like techno and things like that, where you can be like, I only like techno from the 90s. You know what I mean? Or from the 2000s. All modern techno is shit. I actually do make a concerted effort to go to I go to like the front page of iTunes and just kind of like flip through all the music that's come out, and I do try to give things a chance. I don't find a lot that I like, but I do try, and I do find some gems. But I think it's important to try and do that, to try not to let yourself to drift off.
I do the same thing, and like you, I barely ever find anything that I think is any good. It's not that I don't try. I go to Bandcamp and I look at the stuff that people are buying, and I don't ever look at the date of release. I just go, oh, okay, a lot of people are buying this. Maybe it's good.
And then you listen to it?
Yeah, and I'm not going to say it never happens, but I'd say out of every 50, it's maybe 3 things that I go, oh, yeah, okay, that's good. So I'm not actively disengaged. I just don't find much engaging. But look,
the key thing is that you actively attempt to engage.
I keep my mind open to stuff. I mean, I'm not against new music if it's good. I just find that most of it doesn't appeal.
Yeah. I found that what kind of helped me is that there was a period there where I was watching a lot of more modern music videos with my kids, and I find that for some reason music videos are a really good way to get under your radar. If you watch a video a few times, like with your kids, and then you sit there and go, hey, you know what? That song isn't half bad. There's a few artists that I have come to appreciate, mainly because I ended up watching their videos a couple times with my kids, and I was like, it's not that bad. But then there's others where I'm like, oh God, no. There was a period there where my kids had a fascination with oh God, not NSYNC. What was the other one?
Backstreet Boys?
I think it was Backstreet Boys. There was some Backstreet Boys video that they really liked. It was the only Backstreet Boys video they liked, and I think it's because there was some weird space shit in it. But I hated that video. And Backstreet Boys, I know, is not a modern thing. It's just, that's a more historical thing that they liked that I was like, no, please don't like this.
Yeah.
But so it's important. It's good.
Yeah, like I said, I try. Yeah, I don't think it's ever good. I mean, I think this is not exactly a innovation of thinking, but sealing yourself to one type of thing, whether it's a time frame or a genre of music or whatever. No, I don't think that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I try to stay, I think the second you shut yourself down, you just drift away. You just don't,
right.
I think you'll have a harder time understanding what, I was gonna say what young people, I guess, are experiencing.
The youth of today.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's the thing. It's generational differences. It's what you're talking about is the ability to experience the generational differences between yourself and others. Because honestly, there's been what now? What is a generation considered 18 years? How does that work? Do you know how that breaks down?
I don't remember the math on
let's
that.
See. What constitutes a generation?
I know that I got in on like the coattails of Gen X. That's it. That's all I remember.
Here we go. The average period generally considered to be about 20 to 30 years.
All right.
Is what is considered a generation. So yeah, I think that's right because, my parents, in general, did not understand the music I listened to, for the most part. most of the music my parents listened to, I didn't like. But that wasn't universally true. I liked some of it.
Yeah, and I had such a different experience in that respect, which is that I liked a lot of my mother's music. My father was into Latin American music, which was not going to fly with me. But like my mother liked a lot of like Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, stuff like that, the Stones, and I really liked that. And then she, in a really odd way, I would find music, and then she would like the music, so then we would listen to the music. So it was kind of a weird musical relationship there. And to this day, like whenever she wants mix CDs, she usually comes to me for it, which is kind of comical. It's a very weird kind of musical relationship in that respect.
I don't think my mom and I really liked anything the same. My dad and I were it was mostly not, but then the ones that we did have the same, like I deeply liked it, like Dire Straits. My father was the reason I know who Dire Straits are, and I really like Dire Straits. However, my father also liked country music, which I would sooner, I don't know, I'd rather listen to brakes going bad on a car for an hour than that.
You know, my father used to do when I was younger, like when I was in like high school, he got into a period of his life where he really loved Brazilian carnival music.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and so do you know the song from Brazil, from the movie Brazil?
Yes, that's a classic.
At the end
That's
is a classic.
Yeah.
Except I'm going to tell you right now, if you listen to that song performed by somebody else, and then you listen to it performed by whoever did it for the Brazil soundtrack, I don't know how they did it, but there is such a weird desperation to that music.
It is such a different feeling song, even though the notes are
it's almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
They timed it different or something. But my father used to play that song from Brazil. Like there was, like I said, for a while they used to play it every morning. It's how I woke up. Is that he would go out, he'd be down before everybody else, and then he would just start blasting Brazilian carnival music, usually starting with that song, until we were all up and out of the house.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
That's one of those songs.
It's weird, isn't it?
The original, any other version but the one from the movie,
it doesn't sound the same.
Yeah,
it is the same, but it doesn't sound the same.
It's weird because I heard it first in Brazil, so when I heard every other version, I went, "Whoa, what? Why is this so much more cheery and normal? Why is this not desolate and deeply claustrophobically terrifying?"
Yeah.
And I don't know what they did. You're right. I don't know what. I don't know how they did it either. I'm looking through the thing to see if there's anything about that song, because here, music. 1939 song Aquarela do Brasil, Watercolor of Brazil. The song is a musical ode to the Brazilian motherland. Use of the song. Okay, back in music. Arrangement. Okay, let's see. So I'm trying to see if he says what he did with it. Originally recorded in Brazil with vocals by Kate Bush. Interesting. That was not used in the final film. Well, clearly not. There's no.
Yeah. There's a version of that.
It has been released. Yes.
On. Now I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, because I saw Kate Bush on something and I went, well, what are they talking about? She's not in that. Yeah, she is. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't say really what he did. That's interesting. In English, the song is a musical ode. Oh, I see. Okay, got it. Huh. More pliable to 20th century tastes. Yeah, but it doesn't really say how. Huh.
Oh, they changed it a little bit?
Yeah, it's credited with two. It's credited to two people. The person who did a version of it, and then Michael Kamen, who is a well-known composer. He did. What would you know him from? He's done so many things.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Kate Bush version
yeah.
is not the big band version that you hear at the end. It is a very stripped down version where it's mostly just her lyrics and then kind of some instrumental behind it.
Okay. So then that's why. Okay. So that's why they didn't use that. Michael Kamen has done a million things. He did Event Horizon. He did the Lethal Weapon films. He did the first X-Men film. That person you would know. He's done a lot. He did Roadhouse. So Dead Zone. Apparently he did the Pink Floyd movie, the Wall movie stuff helped with that. Life Force, Highlander. He did the music that wasn't Queen in Highlander, which tells you something. There you go. Yeah. So he's done Die Hard. Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff. Adventures of Baron Munchausen, so clearly he's done some stuff with Terry Gilliam.
That's a movie. You know what? That's a movie I got to show my kids.
Oh, Baron Munchausen. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've just kind of come over the kind of the crest. I like to say we're coming up the hill. We're almost over the hill of like youth into like young adultness, and like starting to be able to watch some of these movies. Like it's actually kind of funny because we watched Rebel Moon, and Rebel Moon, because Zack Snyder is somewhat of a story-wise simpleton. No,
it's great. I just a story-wise
simpleton. Well, yeah, because he works in like these very heavy-handed caricatures, right? I mean, like
no. Listen, it's a perfect phrasing.
Okay,
and it's accurate.
So
I'm just laughing because there's a visual thing again, almost a cross-eyed chipmunk writing a screenplay. Go ahead. Sorry.
So like it works for my kids because it's very heavy-handed, and in a way, it's childish. So they watch it and they're like, "Ooh, I get it." But like but there's a lot of movies I loved growing up that were more nuanced, and I was a very nuanced kid. And I don't know if that's because I had my traumas that got me there sooner. I mean, it's a sad thing. Trauma fashions people into, I think, either into more chaotic or more nuanced individuals. You know what I mean? You don't want trauma for your kids. You don't want them to get it at all. But then there are times where you sit there and go, why are my kids not as nuanced as I am? And you're like, oh, because they're in a different situation. You provided them with a very different situation, so they haven't had the kind of traumas that you as an individual may have had. So movie wise, like we're kind of moving into this territory, and like movies like Rebel Moon are fine, but then there's other movies like The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, which are very weirdly heavy, and they listen, Terry Gilliam in general, his movies are, even at the lightest of times, are very weirdly heavy. And you watch them as a kid, and if you aren't nuanced enough, you just think that it's this absurd movie. But then if you are just clever enough, you sit there and go, wait a minute, there's more going on here that I'm just capable of trying to understand. So my kids had never watched any studio. Was it Ghibli or Ghibli?
I think it's Ghibli. I think that's how you
Ghibli. Okay,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so the Miyazaki movies. They've never really seen the Miyazaki movies. I think we tried years ago, and they weren't really that interested. And I like Miyazaki movies quite a bit because he's very good at having a front load child story with kind of a backload deeper message of things, right? So we watched Spirited Away like 2 days ago, a day ago. It's like a day ago. And the thing with Miyazaki is he's very good at making that nuanced complication more accessible to kids. It almost kind of trains you to look for more. You know what I mean? And Spirited Away is such a wild movie. I hadn't seen that one in a couple of years. It's such a wild movie in general because he's pulling on that whole Japanese idea of, everything has a spirit. There's a spirit of everything, But his imagery is so hilarious. How he's welcome to take on all these weird, often kind of spooky things and make them kind of ridiculous and funny. I give him a lot of credit for that, but it's good for the kids because it helps them to watch something and go, wait a minute, there's more going on here. This is not straightforward. There's more nuance here. And I think that's one of the reasons why he's been as successful as he is he doesn't talk down to kids, and I like movies that don't talk down to adults. Whereas, a lot of kids' movies, actually, Zack Snyder is the equivalent of like Snow White for kids, right? It's very straightforward. It's a very simple story. Look, it's pretty. It's funny. Ha 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 ha. Right? Whereas you watch a Miyazaki movie and there's far more going on. There's far more to the characters. Good guys are not necessarily always good. Bad guys are not necessarily bad. You know what I mean? So I'm at that point now where I'm starting to shift them to kind of older movies and trying to figure out movies that are just nuanced enough. And you know, like you know, you brought up Baron Munchausen. I love Baron Munchausen, and that's a movie that I really want them to experience. I just don't know when they're going to be ready to fully experience it without just seeing it. You know, and there's a lot of movies. Why throw that movie at them until they're ready for it, rather than, you know, just kind of let them bide their time. You know what I mean? Before they get the movie like that. You know, we watched Rebel Moon, we watched a Miyazaki movie. You know, we just kind of, you know, we're creating this this sort of visual story education of things. But yeah, Munchausen, I love that movie. I saw that movie way too young. And
yeah, I think I did too.
But I was already that kind of nuanced, weird kid. So when I watched that movie, you know, that movie really sat with me. Yeah. Time Bandits. That's another one too. Like,
well,
I want to watch that.
I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say I saw it too young, because I watched a lot of movies that were, you know, that some people would say, oh, you know, you're too young. But you know, my parents watched them with me. My dad mostly.
Oh yeah, no, and that's the funny thing too. Is you watch all these movies with your parents. I watched all these movies like late at night when nobody was around.
Right.
You know, so like I experienced all these movies on my own.
I mean, not all of them. I didn't watch Chopping Mall with my parents because they never would have let me watch that. But at the same time, I watched Terminator 2 with my father, and I was far younger than most people would say you should be for that. And you know, we watched horror movies and stuff like that at times, and that's what I always kind of say about it. You know, if your parents,
hey, you're lucky.
Well, it's not even just that. It's more of age doesn't matter. Nothing really matters as long as you have the right guidance or you have the right mental space.
Yeah, or you're ready. Yeah, or you're ready for it.
Yeah. Then
but like fine. Time Bandits, I remember I watched Time Bandits and I was a little too young. And one of the things that bugged me for years after watching that movie was what happens to that kid at the end.
What does happen?
Like,
I don't really remember.
Nothing. His parents die, and he's left.
That's because they all blow through. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because
the
they
whole
touch
thing
the evil
around him, right? And that's it.
No, they touch the evil. He says it's evil. Don't touch it, and they touch it, and then they poof.
That's it. I remember explosions or something like that.
Yeah, and he's left without parents. Yeah. And I was like, as a kid, I watched that, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, what now? You know, and it really bugged me because he had been.
He didn't do anything wrong, really.
No, and the thing is, like, they took him from that one king who actually quite adored him in the past, and then they took him back to the present, and then his parents died, and it's one of the things that Gillian always did this, where he has a way with his endings of just like you think you're getting an okay ending, and then he fucking knocks you in the balls as he leaves the room. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the end of Brazil.
Yeah.
Well, that's the real end of Brazil. If you didn't see the you know, whatever, the Love Conquers All cut.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, you know, talk about endings that a movie speaking down to you. The ending of that movie speaks down to you. They're like, oh, you know what? Actually, another great example of an ending speaking down to you. The original, the theatrical ending of Blade Runner, right? You're in this whole movie of doom and gloom, and then at the end, they're in the mountains and it's green and it's beautiful, and you're kind of sitting there going, wait a minute, where the fuck was all this shit? And why are people not living out there? I was like, the whole movie has been dark and raining and industrial.
Well, that's an interesting one, because I'm trying to remember.
Like, that footage is from The Shining. You know that, right?
No. I know that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember how that happened, because I know that the studio asked for the narration, but Ridley Scott was okay with that. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, okay. No, that was not. I thought he was okay with that, but no, he wasn't. I knew everybody hated the voiceover. I knew that. That's why, you know.
So Ford did it like he was drunk.
Well, Harrison Ford has. People said he did it on purpose. Badly, but I believe I've seen a couple interviews, and he basically said, and I do believe this. He said, "No, look, I'm not going to do a bad job. I don't care if I don't agree with it. Because he looks at acting as a job. However, he also has said, and this is what I think is more of it. He also said, but I did not believe in it, and that's obvious. That is a big difference. It's one thing to say I did it bad. It's another to be like, okay, I don't care.
It's in the sense he didn't feel the work needed it.
Right. He felt that it was detrimental. So
but
did he put all
ending,
of his his effort into it? No. Did he do it badly on purpose? No.
And that ending is just it's such a way to speak down to the audience, to say, hey, this whole world looks like this, whole movie looks like this, and yet they got away at the end and they drove into these beautiful green mountains and everything's going to be okay.
Well, the odd part about it is I don't mind them driving off into. I don't even mind the sun part. Like I've watched that version a couple times. The problem is that they leave out the ambiguity of how long they'll have. That's the problem with it, is like you said, it becomes a completely happy, everything worked out, everybody got away problem. Whereas if they had still left in the thing about, we don't know how long she'll live, or
isn't
that stupid thing where he says, "Oh, she's got no termination date." That kind of kills it right there.
Wasn't that line where what's his name? The guy says, "Too bad she won't live," or something like that.
Yeah, it says, "But then again, who does?"
But again, who does? Yeah.
But in the narration for the version you're talking about, he says, Terrell, that was the big secret, no termination date, and that's the part where it's like, okay, now you've gone too far. If it was just the two of them leaving, that's honestly not that bad. It's okay.
What would have been less of an asshole ending for me in the theatrical cut, because I think the director's cut is great because he ends it right as they're leaving. Is that? Yeah, sure. Have them driving away, but have them flying away into some level of the desolation that that you're left with. And I think to some degree, Blade Runner 2049 has kind of made this more evident, which is that when he leaves the city in that one, you see that it's kind of a weird waste zone. Yes. It's not necessarily the most awful thing, because I mean Las Vegas looks pretty fucking weird. And Ford's character has been living there for a while, kind of doing his thing. It's just the fact that you gave me a movie of night, and then all of a sudden it's day.
Yeah, they should have desaturated the colors. They should never have shown all that forest, because that completely goes against the rest. I agree with that part. The part of them driving away, and then I would have added a repeat of the voiceover where you hear like Gaff's words in the background again about it's too bad she won't live, and that's like a reminder that okay, they got away, but for how long you don't know, because that keeps it consistent. But yeah, showing all the green forest, which as you said, number one, there was no light in the rest of the movie except for at the end, because they got caught with the sun coming up. That's the only reason there's light in that one. Yeah, it's because they ran out of time and they had to film the goddamn dove scene, and that's why the dove is going up into the sun coming up, is because they literally got screwed. And other than that, there's no light, there's no day, and that's what gives the movie all of its atmosphere.
I never thought that was the sun coming up necessarily.
That's what it is.
My brain always thought that it was some kind of neon or some other.
Well, let's put it this way: it's you can interpret it that way, but there's a reason that it's the lightest shot in the director's cut, and that's because they were filming as the sun was coming up, and they couldn't replicate the shot. That's the problem. So
but the thing is, I like a movie that doesn't speak down to me.
Sure,
I like a movie that is confident enough to either let me fill it in or let me figure it out and just go.
Well, even if the theatrical ending worked for me, the narration destroys anything in that movie. It's so bad that it effectively kills the movie, forget the ending or not. It's so bad it just destroys it. So I'm not arguing that that's a good cut, but I could see how that ending could work. It just didn't work the way it was done. And plus the rest of the movie has that awful narration that just shreds. I mean, it really is astonishing. Actually, I would tell people this. If you've never seen it, you should watch it, because it will make the director's cut 100% better.
I think you should always watch the alternate cuts.
Yeah, because it destroys
I recently watched a documentary about Kingdom of... Let's just stick with Ridley Scott. A documentary about Kingdom of Heaven and the theatrical cut of Kingdom of Heaven. And so the theatrical cut of Kingdom of Heaven, I actually think is a really good movie. I do actually really enjoy that movie. I like that he went into that time period. I think the movie looks gorgeous. I think the music is really beautiful, the way he used it with the flick. But the theatrical cut, they wanted to make the movie about Orlando Bloom, and they cut everybody's side story kind of out of the movie, and they made it so that nothing makes sense, and it's very trite. And like, do you know anything about the the theatrical versus the director's cut?
Oh yeah, we talked about it at length on one of the shows.
Yeah,
a while
yeah.
ago,
So
but
like,
yeah.
So the thing is like the Ava Green character, you know, she had a child from a previous marriage, and if she basically makes a decision to marry who is essentially the bad guy of the movie because he has knights that will protect her son. So she doesn't make this decision like a bitch. She makes this decision to protect her child. But then she finds out he has leprosy and he's going to die horribly. So then she takes the kid's life. And it's this horrible kind of thing where it's like she made a series of bad decisions, hoping that they were the right decisions. And there's an immense sense of tragic doom to the character. Whereas in the normal cut, they cut out the whole child plot. And she's seen making these decisions almost like she's just a bitch. And you're kind of sitting there going, why would you do that? And she comes off awful. And it's like, you know, you're talking about scenes that completely change a character. They ruined Ava Green's character in the theatrical cut. Whereas in the director's cut, she is, you feel so awful for just how badly everything goes for her, even as she's trying to do the right thing in her own thought process, what she thinks the right thing is. And it's like, yeah, it's very funny how that works, you know, where it's like what studios think that people will want in theaters versus what is a complete story. And it's very sad. I would hate to be a director who brings in a movie and it's like, oh, it's 3 hours long, and have the studio be like, right, we're going to cut an hour out. And you're sitting there going, what are you going to cut out? And they're like, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. You know, like that kind of, that awful feeling. We were talking about, did you record our whole deep dive on Dune while we were playing video games?
I don't remember if I did or not.
Well, either way, yeah. Joe and I had this big conversation about Dune.
I think I recorded at least part of it.
The book versus the movie versus the 1984 movie, because there's scenes I really like from the 1984 movie that I don't know if I don't know if you could make them any better than that. But either way, we were talking about that and all the footage that Lynch filmed that was cut. You know, and the idea that Lynch had, Lynch wanted to make, his cut was supposed to be way longer, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that they were aiming for around 3.5 hours. The original, I think the first cut was 4 to 4.5, and they knew they were going to have to cut that down.
Yeah,
but then it got
and they cut it
to 2.
And they cut it to 2. I mean, geez, think about that, right? The guy wanted to make a 4-hour movie, and they cut it in half.
And the way you know that is because they released the TV extended edition, which is like 3 hours.
Oh, it was just,
with all the commercials and everything. So,
so it's awful, and it's one of the things I feel really bad for directors who find themselves in that situation, because if the story is good, you know what? I'll watch it. I'll give me a nice intermission, and I will watch your flick. You know, I'll watch a 4-hour Dune. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, Villanova's giving us a 5-hour Dune, because when the second half of the first book comes out, it's going to be like a 5-hour movie, right? Very smart of him to do that, you know, because he probably realized that if he tried to squeeze it all into one flick, it wasn't going to work.
And by the way,
yeah,
on YouTube in its entirety, you can watch the 3-hour version that the Spice Diver fan edit. It's 178 minutes, and it is sensational, and it is entirely on YouTube.
It's called the Spice. It's called the Spice.
Well, okay, I will give you the entire title.
Okay.
Dune 1984. Sorry, let me restart.
Dune 1984.
Dune 1984 Alternative Edition Redux bracket Spice Diver fan edit end bracket.
Spice Diver. Yeah, so the Spice Diver.
Yes,
good.
but he redid it. And basically, he
great.
finished effects so that the eyes are blue in the scenes.
Really?
Oh, yes.
That's cool.
Yes. He put the blue eyes in. He's got the whole opening with the
Bene
Gesserit mother and all. It's all there.
I do feel really bad for directors in that respect, where they have this vision of this movie. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that every director who's created a 4-hour movie is a magnum opus. There's plenty of times where we've said that being forced sometimes to have to fit your square peg into a round hole can make a better movie. But sometimes it's haphazard and you really are just losing important corners, you know? And in this respect, you know, the director's cut of Blade Runner for me is a better movie. The director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven is a phenomenally better movie. And honestly, a lot of Ridley Scott's work is better when you just let him have the extra time. You know, did he do a theatrical cut? Director's cut of Prometheus?
No,
remember.
but there again, I've talked many times about the sensationally
know,
good Paradise edit by Job Willens.
But I do wonder.
As far as I know, no. I believe he had final cut on Prometheus, which means that is the director's cut.
Oh yeah,
but I will check that.
And it's not good. So
yeah, I've never heard nor seen any type of re-release that indicates that there was a director's cut, because I think that's one of those where he had basically a George Lucas free ticket to make whatever movie he wanted to make.
Yeah.
So, interesting. Originally, the movie was going to be called Paradise. That must be why Job titled that. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't see anything about filming, post-production. Nothing that is mentioning. I'm just looking through. Box office, home media. No, there's nothing about any type of director's cut that I can find. And I think the people that Ridley Scott cares about all liked it. For example, James Cameron said it was excellent. So,
well, James Cameron wants to make 24 Avatars.
Yeah, no. That's what I'm saying is I think the people that Ridley Scott actually cares about all told him it was good. Therefore, why?
And here's the thing: some people are great directors, but that doesn't necessarily mean they know a good story.
Oh, listen, Prometheus is a gorgeous.
Oh, beautiful
film.
Absolutely.
I mean, I watch it not for the story. I watch it for the effects. You know, for what it looks like.
No. And this goes back to, and we were ragging on Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder makes beautiful movies.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean the story's good.
No.
And that's the thing. It's two different things. I mean, listen, I'm sure you've had you've had a pair of shoes that look really beautiful, but when you wear them, they make your feet want to bleed and fall off.
I don't watch the live action Ghost in the Shell because I think it's better than the animated one. I watch it because the visuals are so beautiful that I can't take my eyes off.
They are really well done. Yeah.
I mean, I've started playing Cyberpunk 2077 because it finally got cheap and somebody gave me a Steam gift card for Christmas. And honestly, that game so far, the thing that is exceptional about it is the visuals. It is such a beautifully realized world. The gameplay is nothing so far.
That's why Watch Dogs Legacy was such a sad thing that there wasn't Legion.
Yeah.
That wasn't. I was so bummed about the fact that the co-op
it's a great
was
world.
just. Yeah, it's an awesome world, but the co-op is just kind of like this weird mini mission.
Very,
thing.
very, very limited.
Yeah,
it's basically lots of micro side things that little run and gun zombie levels.
Yeah, the zombie levels were pretty good. But if they'd just given you the game, I mean, yes. I would have loved to spend hours in that world.
I really hope the next one is completely co-op. I mean, I hope so. We'll see.
I just want some of these studios to go back and co-op old games. I think it'd be worth it.
Yeah, it would be nice.
They don't
do it often. It is done, but not
difficult
often.
That is to do, though.
Well, it's not easy because what you have to remember is that you basically are telling a game, especially if it was never done in the first place, that game has to now keep track of two players in their games and their inputs, and it has to be non-laggy. You can't have a game where it's so laggy.
I know, but what I mean is, like, for a game like Watch Dogs Legion, there's already a co-op element to the world. So...
Yeah, but I think that one, the missions the missions don't account for two people. So I think the difficulty there is, I think if you had two people, it's not that they would have to re-engineer the missions necessarily. Problem is those missions would probably be very easy if you had a second person. I mean, to the point where you'd almost have to make the difficulty higher by default.
Well, yeah, but as the player, you can set it harder if you want.
Well, but what I mean is, if you didn't do that, I imagine the missions would just be 5 minutes long. Two people would run those missions down simply.
But that game was a beautiful world to play in.
But it also does make sense that the way they've got it, especially in Legion, because Legion was the first one where there was no real main character per se.
Yeah.
So it would make perfect sense to have it as being co-op. So if they made a Watch Dogs Legion 2, even the name implies lots of different people who are all different faces. So it's sort of like, it really feels as if you were just, maybe the intent was and they couldn't make it work. Because it feels like a game that is completely engineered for total co-op.
having a team, having a whole team of people.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe it was the original goal.
I mean, Baldur's Baldur's Gate 3 figured out by basically having one be the lead who owns the save.
Right.
And then everybody else is just showing up.
Yes.
You know? And I mean, and there's different ways to run it like that. But the Watch Dogs Legion world is very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to try out the Cyberpunk game. I'm actually still reading that one book that takes place in the world.
Well, now I know who the Trauma Team is because they're all over the game.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So now it all kind of lines up.
Yeah, and I like the idea. The concept is very cool. It's something right out of Gibson. You know. Oh God, you know what? I had the saddest thing happen to me the other day. I was at the bookstore with my kids, and they got gift cards for Christmas, and they ran off to find books. And I'm walking around, and I'm in the ever shrinking sci-fi section, right? And I couldn't find any Gibson. I couldn't find any Stevenson. I couldn't find any Drake. I couldn't find any Sterling. And I had this terrible thought where I thought, oh my God, the old gods are dead. And it was just this phrase that popped into my head. But I was like, oh my God, these authors aren't here at all. Like usually you can find Neuromancer at least, right? Nothing. And I'm hoping that maybe the shit was just all bought and that's why it wasn't there. But yeah, none of my classic authors, and then my wife was giving me shit because she's like, well, that just means you have to, find, new authors. She's like, you can't just read all the same shit. And I'm like, that works for Gibson, whose books I have all read. I was like, but David Drake has a fucking load of sci-fi and fantasy that I have not touched. The guy had a lot of cool books. And Stevenson's got a ton of shit too. And it's just weird how they decide what is now science fiction versus what is just fiction, which is what is a thriller. Because I know that some of Stevenson's work now is considered to be thrillers because it's like he wrote it with somebody else and they're supposed to be like modern day thrillers. And it's just weird. I liked it when science fiction and fantasy was just one big section. But then again, I also try to explain to my kids that at one point or another, Amazon was just a bookstore. And
yeah.
And to some degree, at the base level for me, they're still just a bookstore.
Well, it's one of the few things left where you know what you're getting from them. That's for sure.
Yeah.
As opposed to all the junk that's completely destroyed there. I mean, you can't rely on any of their recommendations. I don't even know half the time if anything's going to show up.
Well, because there's so many weird Chinese companies that have kind of thrown their products on there. Yeah. Like my wife just ordered something arbitrary the other day, and it showed up at the house, and it came from an international Chinese address. Mm-hmm. And I was like, "What the hell did you order from China?" And she was like, "Nothing. I got something from Amazon." And we're like, "Oh, okay. Well, the vendor turned out to be a Chinese international company." Right. Right. So it's funny like that. But yeah, at the end of the day, they're a bookstore. To me, they're a bookstore. Yeah. And I will treat them like a bookstore 9 times out of 10.
Sure.
Yeah. But I have to, because when I go to the actual bookstore, there ain't shit for me, man. I just need to start reading romance novels. The romance section has gotten immense. Have you ever read a romance novel?
Not in a very, very long time.
I find the idea that you sat down and read a romance novel ever to be hilarious.
No, I read one of the Harlequin or whatever title a long time ago because I was curious if they were, because there was always the stereotype of them being really crappy and just what they were. So I read one and I went, okay, this is partially exactly what they say it is, but it's not badly written. It's
they're
fine.
Not badly written. No, they're not badly written. Not badly written.
No, and
but
it is
they
very
are
clear.
But they are the cheeseball thing that you think they are.
It is, but it's also, at least the one I read was clearly geared towards women.
Oh,
which
yeah.
I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah. I guess most of them are, but I don't know enough of it.
And honestly, that's the problem for me, because when I read romance novels, when they get to the sex scenes, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh, we're gonna get it on now. We're gonna get it on now," and then I get these very watered down.
Yeah, I remember the thing I most took out of that book was, wow, women just want a long amount of you running your fingers over their skin and not much else for hours.
Yeah, my wife is like, that's because you wanted penthouse letters.
Well,
and I'm like, yeah, I suppose. I mean, that's the thing with me. Like, I know you don't like them, but like Richard K. Morgan for me does like the greatest sci-fi sex scenes because they're so over the top and they take the some
It's
weird
splatter porn.
technology.
It's splatter
Oh
porn.
yeah, it's. But then you read these romance novels, and I've had to read a few. When I was doing my writing program, one of the things they tried to drum into us was that you should always read books outside your genre, even though you don't want to, just to get a sense of kind of what's going on outside of kind of your mental zeitgeist. And I had to read a bunch of romance novels, and you know what? Some of them were very funny, but there was always they just seem so subdued. Like they're supposed to be these what do they call them? Where the cummerbund, there's a term for it, like bodice ripping, romance novels. And it's like, yeah, but they're so watered down. And in fact, when 50 Shades of Grey became really huge, I remember I sat down and I read a few pages from 50 Shades of Grey, and I thought to myself, this is so watered down. Why is this? I really cannot tell you why that book was as popular as it was with the demographic that it was as popular. My mother-in-law read 50 Shades of Grey, and I'm kind of like, really? It's like, I don't understand. And which is really weird isn't that book start out as Twilight fan fiction?
I think so, but I
think
honestly don't know much about it because I just had zero interest in it whatsoever. So I don't really know, but I remember hearing something along those lines.
I mean, listen. I will always say best of luck, and I'm happy for any author that can make it and can make a ton of money, right? I give her shit, but I'm not giving her shit because I'm like, oh, I don't think she should have money. No, by all means, you got people to read your book, and that's fantastic.
Right.
But for me, looking at some of these books, they do feel very watered down, and I wonder if I'm due to read something outside of my genre again.
Well, I mean, if I had the interest, I would probably do a search saying what are the best romance novels that aren't that are different.
Oh no, but that's what you do. Yeah, you find the year.
But I didn't read the one I read. Didn't put me off ever reading them again. They're just not my interest.
Oh no, they're not. Yeah, it wasn't that it was bad,
but it was definitely not as bad as
good.
The stereotypical depiction. Now I'm sure those books exist. I'm sure there are trash novelists in that, like there are in every genre that make just junk. But I don't remember the name. I mean, this has got to be 15 years ago I read the thing, and I was like, okay, this is not something I would normally read, but I'm not sorry I read it. I've read far worse, so it was fine.
But honestly, I think everybody should read a few romance novels.
And I love the artwork, man. Those are some good paintings.
Oh, those covers.
that is not a small skill. So I admire that part, but not for me. So.
It's good. It's kind of a good mental homework, isn't it, to read something that's outside of your genre?
I'm doing it now. So.
Oh yeah, you are. You are. I guess we could mention that very briefly.
We can. I'm not even. I think I'm a sixth of the way into it, but I've started reading House of Leaves by Mark's D long last name that I'll mispronounce, and it's definitely an experimental novel.
Yeah.
I don't have much to say on it yet outside of that. I'm reading it. I'm interested.
I told Joe I would read that book if it was just, I actually read it if it was a straightforward book. I found myself reading it and I got irritated with the, what felt like the unnecessary extra dimension of the,
I would bet that somebody has published or has uploaded a version where it's just the foundational text. And I would bet you money.
Yeah, because I love the idea. I love the idea of the house and it moving and changing,
I'm 70 pages into a 600-page book. Okay? And so far in that 70 pages...
And you're reading it hard copy, which is such a thing for you.
It's but that's okay. I like the tactile. It is getting outside my comfort zone a little bit. That's fine. But so far, all the extraneous writing has added nothing.
Nothing.
So my hunch is that this story will work fine as a much shorter, non-footnoted thing. Now that may change.
Yeah. Every time I think of House of Leaves, it makes me think of Ulysses by
yes.
Oh Jesus Christ! Can't remember his name.
Homer. No, Homer. Oh no, Ulysses. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the Odyssey. Sorry. Wrong.
No. That was quite possibly the funniest literary thing you've said to me.
Yeah. Well.
No. What's his name? Was it Homer?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Twain?
No, Jesus. Now you're killing me. Okay, hold on.
I'm not as literary as you. I don't know all the great authors.
Oh man.
Oates? Joyce Oates?
It's James Joyce.
Oh, I got it by accident. I didn't look it up when I said that. I was thinking.
Oh man. Sorry. So James Joyce. Yeah, I like James Joyce. I The Portrait of an Artist at a Young Age is a great book. I like a lot of his stuff. But I know that when he wrote Ulysses, he was really writing a book to just fuck with critics. You know, because
it's described as a modernist novel.
Yeah, everything else he wrote was very straightforward, and then he wrote this book that is just all over the place. And it's one of those things. If you just take the book for the story is very ordinary. It's that he tried to dress it up with all this shit to fuck with critics, and because of that, if you're just looking for a good narrative, you kind of sit there and go, you know what? I don't need all these reindeer games. And I think that's the thing is, for me, I like a good narrative. I don't need reindeer games. I just want good writing. You know? In fact, the worst I ever did in my master's course was in my class. I should not have taken that Ulysses course. I took a course on Ulysses, and the professor and I disagreed because he basically wanted me to write a paper about why James Joyce was a genius. And my paper was basically about how I didn't think Ulysses was a novel. It was more of an art piece, you know? And I wrote it in a stream of thought, you know, that was partly a play, partly a poem. He didn't find that very amusing, which I thought was kind of missing the whole point. If you tell me to read a novel, which is a basic mind fuck to critics, then why would I not write my review as a basic mind fuck about the author to the reader? You know what I mean? Like, anyway. You want something conventional from something inconventional. It's just not going to work.
By the way, I found one of the best single sentence reviews of House of Leaves. Stick to the Davidson report stuff only and skip 75% of the rest. I would be curious. I think what I'm going to do, my plan, is to finish the book, reading it. Plus there's interpretations of how you're supposed to read it. Okay, fine. I'm going to read it how I read it. I'm not going to read anything about how to read. I'm not going to do any of that crap. I'm just going to read it the way I'm reading it. I'm going to read it to the end, and then I'm going to wait maybe 6 months, and I'm going to go find, because I just found that there are stripped down versions where they just did the main text, and then I'll reread that.
Is it like a Kindle file?
I believe it looked like it was a PDF. Yeah, it looked like it was.
Oh, send it to me.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll read that a long ways after, and I will see if I find that anything is missing, and if I find because they're like I said, no, I'm curious.
The idea of a space that just seems to have a mind of its own. I love that idea.
Well, I also like the idea of it's not. I like the ambition of books are normally read like this. I would like to try my hand at doing something different and making a person read more actively, where you're engaging in different ways of reading and different perspectives within the same novel. That's an interesting idea. I just don't know if it's going to be.
Isn't that a choose your own adventure book from like the 80s?
Well, okay, but it's not really that, because this is taking unreliable narrators and multiplying it, or maybe there is one reliable one. So that's interesting because you can interpret it. I don't mind interpreting.
I'd like to find a book that reads like the movie Primer. There's a moment in that movie Primer
there are books
where
like that.
but still manages to land it. I mean, that's the big thing, right? It's your ability to land it. Was it Black? So Rick Remender, he wrote this graphic novel series called Black Science.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Looking for technical time travel novels along the lines of Primer, but in book form. Okay,
wow.
I have some recommendations for you.
Oh, by all means.
Here we go.
Yeah.
You might enjoy the Milkweed Triptych. It's not really sci-fi, but it's World War II alternate history in which the English are making deals with extra-dimensional demons and the Nazis are building psychic super soldiers.
What?
Hold on. This makes it sound pulpy and childish, but it's actually very well thought out.
No,
in any
sounds
case,
hilarious.
The second and third book have a fair amount of time travel weirdness. That's one. The Man Who Folded Himself is another one.
The titles of these three are excellent too. Let me really read these titles to you.
Okay, good.
This is the Milkweed Triptych. So Bitter Seeds, right? The Coldest War.
Ooh, that's a great title.
And Necessary Evil.
Oh wow!
Oh shit! You know what?
No, what?
Motherfucker! I own Bitterseed.
Oh, there, wow. See,
I have that.
You went back in
I
time
have
and
that. I
bought
just
the
haven't-
book for yourself.
Yeah,
So.
I just haven't gotten to it. Yeah, that's very funny.
I'll read a couple more for you. The Man Who Folded Himself, which is also a great title.
I've heard that one before. Yeah.
The Anubis Gates.
Oh,
Times.
hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. I may have already read
That one is apparently not sci-fi, but similar in terms of how the book is structured, I guess.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't heard of it, but I haven't read that one.
Here's one. Timescape by Gregory Benford, who has a PhD in physics. So I guess that must indicate that maybe he knows what he's doing.
Well, I don't know. Gregory Benford.
I'm just going through lots of different ones. So
I'm looking at Benford's work.
he's
I've
come
heard
up a
of
couple of
Benford.
times.
Yeah, he's very good. The thing sometimes you find is that people who know a topic really well sometimes get more caught up with making it correct rather than making it interesting. You know what I mean? That's the fear. Sure. But no, I will definitely check that out.
Well, there you go. So apparently you're not the End of Eternity by Asimov. Would I say you know what? Actually, yes. The End of Eternity it's not as, I actually read that one. I actually love that one. And it does deal with time travel, and it does deal with like multiple versions. Yeah, it's not as complicated. It's not quite as, Asimov never got that hard sci-fi. So it's surface level.
Oh man, what was that book I read recently? How to Survive in a Science Fiction Universe.
That was in that list, but I was pretty sure you'd read that.
Yeah, I've read that one. And the thing is, like, I like the things that the author was trying to do in that book, but it just felt so repetitive and mundane.
Well, the person who recommended the reason I didn't say it was because the person said, but be aware it's more of a fun book than a primer book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So,
and he closes the loop too in that book. That's I will say that's one of the things I really thought he was going to find a way to break the loop, but in the end, he doesn't break the loop. He does complete the loop, which I was impressed with that.
Okay.
It just wasn't necessarily what you thought it was going to be.
Sure.
So he kept the loop, but yeah. Anyhow, I completely forgot what the hell I was going to say before you read that list.
Well, you were saying you wanted to find a book that was like primer.
Oh, I know, but otherwise, what I was saying was, it's good to get out of our comfort zone and read, stuff that isn't necessarily what you'd normally read to kind of like, flex the mind a little bit, play in somebody else's backyard, and know what you like and know what you don't like. Because you know what? Listen, you may find that romance novels are amazing, right?
Yeah.
And if you normally read romance novels, read a hard sci-fi novel. See what happens.
Sure.
Like you might really enjoy it. Yeah, I think if for the new year, try to read something that you normally wouldn't read, and go to a best of list. See what the best examples of it are, and check them out. I know that in my course we were reading what were basically bestsellers, from other genres. And I remember when it was time to read sci-fi, they made us read. Is it Darwin's Radio?
Is it Darwin's Rainbow?
No, Darwin. No, it's a Greg Bear book. What is it? Greg Bear. I think it's Darwin's Radio, or maybe it was, or was it? Maybe it was. Yeah, Darwin's Radio. I'm pretty sure it was Darwin's Radio. That was a weird book, Darwin's Radio. I'd never read Greg Bear before. I read a lot of sci-fi about Greg Bear, and I just remember that book being strange because it's like half the book is really hard sci-fi, and then like it kind of took a weird turn and became like almost like a weird road romance novel, and then went back into hard science. Okay. Yeah. Like I just remember, like you had these two scientist characters, and then at some point after they've realized what's going on in the world, and they're gonna drive from one place to another, and the one female scientist says to the male guy something along the lines of, "I want you to fuck me at every truck stop" or something like that. And I was like, "Whoa!"
Hey.
This book, this book, it switched gears on me very suddenly. Yeah. If you're looking for a good novel to scare the shit out of you, though, you should read Hot Zone.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, right. They tried to make that into a miniseries. It did not work.
Yeah, that's the guys who did the Relic, right? Same one.
I don't know. I don't remember. But
the
actual book, which is based off the
Ebola,
what
is
do you
it?
call it? Yeah,
Yes, that's the Richard Preston, who was one of the guys behind the Relic. That's what I thought.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Preston and Lincoln, I believe, are the two authors.
that. Yeah.
Let's see. Yes, novels. Wasn't it? Am I
No,
wrong?
it's a nonfiction, but it's a very
That
scary
one is
book.
nonfiction. Yeah. Why did I think that? Huh. I could have sworn that was one of the guys who worked with the. But I don't see. Well, wait. Novels: The Cobra Event, The Book of Dreams, A Christmas Story. What? Hold on. Maybe you know what I think.
Have you got yourself confused?
Well, no. I think I'm right that the guy, one of the authors of the book, wrote something like The Hot Zone.
Okay.
Douglas. Oh, you know what it is? Douglas Preston, not Richard Preston. They wrote the book called. Oh God, what is it called? Hold on, I'm trying to find it here. Nonfiction. Was it Lost City of the Monkey God?
Ooh, that's a good title.
That's a good. That's not the one I'm thinking of. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I believe they did write a book that was, but I believe it was a fiction book.
If you're looking for a nonfiction book to scare shit out of you, the Hot Zone is a really good book, which is about a near Ebola outbreak. That book is tense, and then it's all about Ebola and what Ebola does. And that movie, that book, freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah.
The two scariest things I've ever read, right, are that book, The Hot Zone, right, and then a New York article all about the Cascadia fault.
Oh yes.
My wife used to do this thing where we'd go on long drives. When we still lived in Vermont, the drive back and forth was always really long. It's like 5 hours, and there was a period there where we used to do the drive a lot, and she used to read articles to me while we were driving from New Yorker when she still had a subscription to that, and it was fun. It was like having an audiobook, except with my wife. Now I listen to college courses while I drive, which is like having a very a learned professor in the back seat lecturing to us. But she read this article about the Cascadia fault, and it was like one of the scariest things. Like, because I was like, holy shit. Like, just, if you know anything about the Cascadia fault, definitely go stop listening right now and just go read about it. It is so scary. Like, its time is up. It's gonna go off at some point. And when it does, it's gonna drop. It has the potential to drop the West Coast underwater. I think it was like 50 feet or something ridiculous. Like, it has the potential is so awful.
Right. Well, that's the problem. There's a lot of these faults that it's like, okay, the timer has gone off a long time ago.
Yeah. And the area where there are people who are important to me in California will be relatively okay. Granted, the number of people that will be coming your way who need someplace to live.
Well, that's going to be
But you know what? I watched a documentary recently that blew my socks off, which is in the same vein of the Cascadia thing. There's a documentary called, I think it's called The Volcano. I think it's a Netflix. Yeah, Rescue from Wakari. So there's a documentary called The Volcano, Rescue from Wakari. You should see this. It's really interesting. About essentially a volcano off the coast of New Zealand that's like one of the most active volcanoes. But like not hugely active. Like it goes off, but like in these little ways, but it's always kind of bubbling and going. And it's basically about a bunch of tourists. Tons of tourists come and go to this island. It's always bubbling. It's always steaming. Except on this particular visit, the damn thing went off. And it didn't have a lava eruption. It had a steam eruption. One of those like hot gas and steam and smoke and rocks and shit. While people were on it. And then the massive, weird rescue recovery that happened where like, the New Zealand government basically said, we're not sending anybody to the island because it's not safe, because it could go off at any moment. So you had a lot of these locals who went in on their own reconnaissance to see how they could help, and landed on the island, and were dealing with all these people. There were people who were basically like, they were steam burned, and they were just sitting there dying, and their skin was like coming off. They don't show you a lot, thankfully, in the documentary. But the weird thing for me was that they are only talking to a few people, and for the first part of the documentary, I was like, oh, why are you talking to this few people? Because like in my brain, a lot of people survived. And then as the documentary went on and I realized that the reason they were only talking to these like 4 or 5 people is because that's how many people actually survived. I was like, oh, okay. Like there's a teenager who lost his sister and his parents. And the fact that he survived it all was amazing because he was near the lava lake when it went off. Like his sister, they never found his sister's body. Like his sister's body was just gone. But like, you know, this thing went off and they were in this cloud of darkness, and this kid describes how like every part of him was burning, and he was like, he felt his skin bubbling and kind of sloughing off. And he was able, after the eruption ended, which was only a few minutes, he was able to stand up, and he was just in utter agony, and he saw his parents like laying there on the floor writhing around, and he wanted to help them, but he realized that he couldn't do anything, so that he just figured the best thing I can do is try to get help. I'll get help. And he walked away, and he said it was the hardest thing he ever did, and he luckily stumbled into people who had come. There had been another tour boat that had gone off the water when this thing had gone off, and as soon as they saw it go off, they came back to see if they could help, and they found him, and he was able to survive. And you never realize the full extent of how awful he was burned till the end of the documentary, where the kid goes, I took photos of my recovery so I wouldn't forget this, and they show you these photos of what he looked like through various stages of his recovery. And it's utterly awful. Like all of the skin, it's amazing. It just came off. It's amazing this kid lived. And he was right next to the eruption when it went off. So that was a really crazy documentary to watch. If you're looking for something harrowing and fascinating, it's called the Volcano Rescue from Wakari. And I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix. I think you would enjoy that. It's not hugely graphic in its video. It's more so graphic in what people are talking about and what people are seeing. And it isn't till the end of the documentary where you see photographs of what that poor kid experienced that you're like, you get a visual sense of how awful it was. But like, I was kind of bored for the first 15 minutes. Cause like, why are you giving me all this backstory? I was like, why don't we get down to it? And I was just kind of like waiting. And then all of a sudden when things started going off, I was just like, holy shit. Oh my God. I was like, this is awful. I was so tense watching this. So anyway, yeah, it's out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, you'll never find me that close to a volcano, period. So
I have been a couple times. I was,
because this is the kind of shit that would happen if I was there.
Actually, what's funny is that one of the other people they talked to in the documentary is a couple, and the wife was a little nervous, and she said to the guy, to the tour guide, is this an active volcano? And the guy was like, well, yeah. And she got really nervous, and she said to this was their honeymoon. She said to her husband, she's like, I want to leave. And it was her paranoia that got them as far out as they were when it went off. Otherwise, they would have been in that main group that got essentially
my hero.
Cooked.
Good work, lady. Paranoia pays off.
Oh my God, yeah. And the thing is, like, when I was in Iceland is one big volcano. Let's be clear about that. But like, I remember the first time I went to Iceland, my wife and she wasn't my wife then. We hiked on an active volcano, and I didn't know it was an active volcano. Like, I was like, oh, it's awfully steamy around here, you know? And like, you know, I at that point, I wasn't very outdoorsy. Like, I was a kid from New Jersey, you know, it's very funny how quickly you get out of what your frame of reference, and then you don't really know how to like define things. So, you know, the idea that I was walking on an active volcano, because I had seen an active volcano. I'd been to Hawaii at that point, and I had walked in the Volcano State Park. And so for me, a volcano was like all this black rock lava and fucking hellscape, and that's what it looks like, right? But in Iceland, it's like it's all green and mossy, and it looks so alive, and it's like it's a very alien landscape. But it's not threatening. It's just kind of more mysterious. But there's a lot of steam vents, a fucking lot of steam vents. And my wife afterwards was like, "Oh yeah, that was an active volcano." Which is like, there's no idea. And the thing is, there's no idea when these things are going to go off. No, there isn't. There's none whatsoever. But I mean, they just had one go off near. Oh, they just very near the Capitol. Did you read about that?
I did. I saw that.
Yeah, it just feels like it's getting closer and closer to the Capitol. They actually had to shut down the Blue Lagoon, which is like this big tourist spot they've got there. And one of the towns got a massive crack right through the middle of the town. But this particular eruption that they've been getting kind of slowly creeping toward the Capitol, it's not like a big boom eruption. It's just a lava seeping out of the ground for periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Iceland is a big, it's a big volcano.
It really is.
The worst ones are the ones that are under glaciers, because when those go off, you just get a massive, flood.
Yeah,
of
exactly.
Just
yeah,
debris and moss.
The biggest of all flash floods.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's almost worse, because it's like, well, how the hell do you prepare for that? But they monitor these things. Iceland monitors their
they do, but I
volcanoes
mean,
the way that
you can't relocate an entire countryside in 5 minutes. So yeah.
No, but if you see it stirring, listen. I mean, most of the time, I think you have the opportunity to.
Most of the time you have.
But
lots
you
of
know
things,
what?
But the time you don't is when
But hey,
10,000 people die.
Speaking of California, I did see that The Rock is doing a sequel to San Andreas.
Well,
San Andreas 2, the earthquake strikes again.
Yeah, well, I guess I don't care.
California,
it's not a movie I'll be watching.
California monitors its fault lines.
Well, sure, of course.
Yeah,
but like I said, it's just like everything else. It's like you can monitor them, but if the big enough one comes, you're losing real estate that ain't coming back. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's.
Well, yeah. If the Cascadia fault goes off, and suddenly massive amounts of the East Coast are underwater, it's like, well, what do you do?
Right.
What do you do with all those people?
Not much.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, that's the West Coast is the most. Well, no, it isn't the most unstable, because Yellowstone is a bomb waiting to go off.
It is among the most unstable parts. You can say that with some confidence. I mean, there's depending on instability and how you define it, there's lots, but it is definitely one of them because of the severity of the faults and what could happen and what they're overdue for. So yeah, it is. It is an ongoing concern.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. You're in a pretty stable spot.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I'm really not.
Yeah. Just here's my real estate advice to everybody. If you're going to buy real estate, if you're going to buy like a house somewhere,
high and dry.
Yeah, make sure you're like at least 200 feet above sea level, if possible. Let's get two. Yes. Honestly, I said to my wife, like 2 to 250 feet is like my low water mark at this point. Not to make a pun. What's crazy is that right as I left Vermont, massive flooding. And we never had flooding when I lived there. We never had flooding when I lived there, and then I left, and all of a sudden it was like they just had all this flooding. They had a massive flood when I moved, and they just had more flooding recently because the ground is too cold to absorb more water, but then it rains a ton because it's too warm. So then the snow all melts, and so you've just got a fuck ton of water, and the ground's like, nope. And then the rivers are just overflowing. So the capital got flooded again, and all the low-lying towns, and so, yeah, it's crazy. It's all crazy.
Well, speaking of deep level paranoia.
Oh yeah, you had a deep level paranoia.
I have two movie reviews. I'm going to start off with the one that is the paranoid conspiracy thriller of the two, because I'd rather end with the really pleasant, heartwarming, uplifting one. But the first one, which is a deeply paranoid film, back when paranoia films were fun and not reasons for people to shoot up a Capitol building, is from, technically this was filmed in 1980. It wasn't released until 1982 for some reason. I can't really figure, does it say why? Doesn't really say why. I don't think there's any specific reason. I think it's just whatever it was.
They do that sometimes.
Yeah, I don't think there was anything behind it. I think they just held it for a couple of years, maybe because they had bigger movies in the pipeline. Who knows? But anyway, it's called Endangered Species, which I reviewed Hangar 18 a little while ago, the movie about the UFO that lands and they're investigating it. I like that movie. And this is often paired with that one because I think they came out within a year or two of each other. And I thought I had seen this one, but then when I read about it, I went, no, I don't actually think I saw this one. And it is sort of the classic UFO conspiracy theory or paranoia theories around cattle mutilations. And it stars Robert Urich and Jo Beth Williams, as well as a number of other people who you will probably recognize when you see them. They're people who are in lots of movies, character actors. And movie starts out, and we get a character who would no longer be the lead, or at least not in this way in a movie, which is Robert Urich is playing a New York City police officer who has quit his job because he was beating up too many people and he's drunk. And rather than deal with the department lecturing him about police brutality, he just decided to quit and take his daughter, who doesn't like him very much because he's a drunk, and go out to Colorado and just kind of camp out for a while and maybe live somewhere other than the city. So the start off of this movie is a hilarious montage of Urich kind of raving and ranting about, gay people with a different word for it, and how all that he's guilty of is smashing the heads in of people who he knew were guilty. So, again, not a cop that we would necessarily see depicted in the modern day as the main lead of the movie. He also sexually assaults Jo Beth Williams at one point, at least feels bad about it, but he clearly is about 1 inch from raping her. Definitely a anti-hero, I suppose we would call him now, but he leaves and he goes off to Colorado.
Scumbag, I think.
Yeah, scumbag cop. So this is Scumbag Cop versus the Black Helicopters. That should be the movie's subtitle. But he goes out to Colorado, where it just so happens that there are a bunch of cattle mutilations happening. Now, I need to point out that the movie starts out, and immediately a title card comes up and says that in 1960, and I think this is true. I believe the year that is this part of it is actually accurate. That in 1969, the American government banned research into bioweapons, either through chemical or germ warfare type stuff, that it was outlawed. And then it says, and just after that, there were a bunch of cattle mutilations that started up. So the movie essentially, for a movie that is a mystery film, kind of blows the mystery right off the bat. I wish they didn't have that title card there. That should have been at the end. But to lead off with that, you immediately know pretty much what this movie is going to be about. And the movie is set up as a mystery, not only to the characters within it, but to us as the audience, because when the cattle are being abducted and mutilated, for about the first half, you barely see what's grabbing them. It is made to look like it might be UFOs. But the fact that that card is the first thing it starts off with, you pretty much know that it's not UFOs. And it's not. But the movie is trying to play it like it wants to. It's trying to play it as if it could be three things. It could either be UFOs, the government, or Satanists. So Satanic Panic, which is right about this time. And the movie kind of bandies about in that. And the first instance we get of that is there is a meeting in Colorado where Jo Beth Williams has just become the first female sheriff that this... I don't know what the town is even. I know they mentioned it, but I don't remember what the name of the town is. Somewhere in Colorado. She has now just been elected as the first female sheriff, and immediately they want her to figure out what's going on with the cattle. And this is the first meeting between the ranchers and Jo Beth Williams as the sheriff. Oh, and I should note, it's also there's a newspaper guy whose name is Joe Hyatt. Who plays Joe Hyatt? He's really good. He's in most of the movie. His name is Joe Hyatt. Where is he? Where is he in this thing? Oh, Paul Dooley, who ends up being a person that Robert Urich's character knows. That's why he's going to this town, because he happens to know this newspaper guy. So the newspaper guy's there. It's a bunch of the ranchers and local town officials and Jo Beth Williams, and they're discussing what's going on with all these cattle.
Mutilations. I've been on the phone calling other newspapers around the state. And we've had a fair amount of these sprinkled through the cattle country in Colorado. I'm waiting for some reports from Oklahoma and Texas. Nobody seems to know what's causing it.
You know, my wife's been reading articles about this stuff, and she's under the opinion that it's probably devil cultists.
But, Fred, there's really no evidence that points to that.
Now, look, this happens at night, so why don't we just send out patrols? The gun club where I shoot, hell, we'll organize something, go after these cars.
I don't want to hear any talk about gun clubs or night patrols. I am the law here. Look, even if it is some kind of cult, they're still people, right? I mean, they have to drive there or they have to walk. They have to leave some kind of tracks, and there have been no tracks. Also, The last carcass that I saw, within 24 hours, all of the vital organs had disappeared. Now, I don't mean cut out like with the rest of these. I mean vanished, evaporated.
Well, this is a good time to bring this up. George Bradshaw's under the opinion that it's probably UFO.
Was that before or after his jug of brandy?
Look, I'm just telling you what he told me, and I think it's pertinent to this
I
conversation.
don't think we ought to be
that's all.
spreading theories
Hold
about
it.
UFOs.
That's really enough of this stuff, all right? Now, how many are we talking about here? What, 2 or 3?
6, I think.
4.
4. Well, I think we ought to give the sheriff a chance to look into this. Hey, that's part of her job. Let's not be jumping to conclusions here. I'm sure there's a simple explanation for this, Mayor. Right? I think we have a lot more problems around here than a few dead cows.
Right. So this is our setup.
I love the tension music that comes in.
Okay. The soundtrack is fascinating in this movie because I kept thinking, oh, this is old 60s, 70s Doctor Who music. It's really specifically weirdly electronic. There are times where it does not make any sense for this movie. I like it, but it feels like a Doctor Who soundtrack, which is, I mean, I like old Doctor Who music, but it's very specific. Like, it's a specific type of soundtrack, so it's really bizarre how it's used in this movie. Yeah, the music is interesting. I mean, it's one of the most interesting parts of this. But essentially, this is our setup for the movie. Is okay. These cattle are being mutilated, and there's like surgical incisions on them. Their organs they vanish or evaporate. There's no blood. There's no tracks. Everybody's got a different theory on it, and nobody knows what's going on. So the newspaper guy is looking into it. The sheriff, of course, now she's just been appointed. Now she wants to try to solve it because the ranchers are getting pissed, and of course that's a big part of the economy here. And the last voice you heard there is one of the big ranchers whose name is Ben Morgan. Now he will become important as the movie goes on, but he's the one who said, "Let's let the sheriff do her job. Let's see what's going on." There's probably a reasonable explanation. As this is going on, Urich's super drunk cop rolls into town and meets up with Joe Hyatt, who's the newspaper guy, because they're old friends. And one of the reasons that Hyatt wants him to come out is because Hyatt knows that Urich's a cop who can't resist getting involved in something going on, and he wants him to look into this. And Urich is immediately resistant to that. He's like, look, I'm trying to get sober. I mean, to credit, he is trying to not be a scumbag to some degree. So he's like, no, I'm trying to go dry. I'm out here with my daughter. I'm trying to get away from all this stuff. Like, being a cop has ruined my life, and I'm not looking to get involved in a local investigation. And Hyatt really just keeps like kind of telling him about it and keeping him involved because he's betting, and he is correct, that at some point there's going to be enough mystery that Urich's character will not be able to resist becoming involved. So, Urich's in town. He bumps into the sheriff. He gets involved in a bar fight. The daughter and him are kind of going back and forth and all this stuff. Daughter goes out on a date with a cop, which he's not really happy about because he doesn't like cops because, he was an asshole cop. And in the middle of that date, the cop is called to a local call for a barn that's on fire, and the barn is on fire, and they manage to get a couple of the cattle out, and they catch the guys who set the thing on fire. And when they catch them, they basically say, yep, we've been mutilating the cattle, we're Satanists, and we did all this. And when this happens, Urich happens to be at the station because his daughter was with the cops, so he's there anyway, and he's listening to this, and he decides to kind of interrogate these guys because something doesn't seem right about it. So this is him in that station kind of talking to the guys and trying to determine what's going on with this barn burning and the Satanist thing.
Cattle mutilations, barn burnings. Sheriff, I'm afraid it's going to be a little difficult defending these boys. They're confessing to everything.
So who are you?
I beg your pardon?
Mr. Isaacs, could you wait for me up in my office, please? Thank you. Don't do that.
Do what?
Interfere with my case. He's their lawyer. He's here posting bail. Hurry up, Joe, or I'll charge you rent on the typewriter.
Good work, Harry. Now you're talking. Get these scum behind bars.
Bobby, I want everybody out of here in 2 minutes. Everybody.
Right, Harry.
You know that lawyer?
Never saw him before.
What do you think?
Wouldn't want him defending me.
Bobby, you mind if I offer the boys a smoke?
Yeah, it's okay.
But I like him.
So, why'd you do it?
Ask my lawyer.
Tough guy. Everybody's a tough guy. Wanna smoke?
What?
Wanna smoke?
No,
Mind if I smoke?
it's your fucking business.
And yours is cutting up cows, huh?
Nothing but paperwork.
What do you think, Hyatt?
You know what I think.
Yeah, I know.
To get to the bottom of this, just stick to straightforward police work.
Those two couldn't mutilate a hot dog without leaving tracks. This devil cult stuff is just to throw you off.
You better keep looking, Sheriff.
So as you can hear, he's now starting to get involved. He's sticking his nose into it, and he doesn't buy for a minute that these two guys who have confessed to cutting up the cows and everything are actually behind it. And, you know, that's because he correctly senses that this seems to be an attempt to throw people off of what's actually going on. So later on, he goes over to the newspaper guy's house and to have dinner, and they're sitting there and they're talking. And again, he's reiterating, he's like, you know, something's wrong with this, but I can't get involved with it. You know, I'm already starting to ask questions I shouldn't be asking. I need to stay the hell out of this. And of course, the newspaper guy keeps prodding him to get involved. And then he comes up with, you know, the idea of, well, what if it's a UFO thing? And this is their discussion about that.
You know, in almost every case, bright lights in the sky, no tracks, strange noises.
UFOs, huh?
Look, pal, if it's UFOs, it's bigger than all of us. That's like saying God did it. But if it's not UFOs,
God damn it, Joe, will you just leave me out of this, huh?
you don't want to be left out of it, Reuben. You know that, and I know that.
Yeah, we do, huh?
Okay, fine. Just walk away from it.
Mr. Hyatt, you know that trick you were showing me?
Yeah?
I can't do it.
Okay. One more time.
Hey, look at that. Magic.
Right, magic, but there's always a logical explanation.
Well, that was real nice, Joseph. Good meal, you got a great wife. She buys terrific cake.
Oh, good. You know, Reuben, cows have got to be the most blameless creatures on earth.
Cows.
I mean, we eat them, we drink them, we wear them. They don't bite. Hell, they don't even shit on the sidewalks. Where'd you get this thing?
That's the loner. Matt keeps customizing the caddy.
You know the most obscure thing I've discovered about cows? That their nervous systems and the reproductive systems are almost identical to humans.
Yeah, that's obscure, all right. Hey, Joe. You're gonna figure this one out all by yourself. I'm sure of it.
Right. It's a piece of cake.
So at this point, he leaves and he goes and he starts to get drunk because he's falling off the wagon again.
Yeah, does he? Yeah, and is he drunk in that scene?
Yeah, he had a drink in that scene, and then he proceeds to drink more.
Yeah, there is a drunkenness to the character.
Yes, and he was doing fine, and then he starts drinking, and then he goes over to the sheriff's house, Joe Beth Williams' house, and he basically like barges in and starts to sexually assault her, and she basically I think she kicks him in the nuts or something. And
the sheriff?
Yeah, the sheriff. And he's an asshole. This is the thing. There's a point where they do it. It's very bluntly done, but they clearly are playing it as he's an asshole. And then that event seems to snap him sober for good, where basically he realizes after she basically beats him up and throws him into a shower that he has crossed the line. Like that is apparently the part where he really has to look in the mirror and realize he's a scumbag. So at that point, he's like, okay, I have to leave town. I've done something terrible. I basically was sexually assaulting this woman. And they do surprisingly play that very level where she says, because he says something and she, it's very clear that it's not that, she's just playing hard to get. Like they don't play around with it. They play it as, no, this was an attempt at sexual assault by somebody who otherwise thinks of himself as a moral person, and now he has to realize that obviously his morality is in the fucking toilet along with the fact that he's drunk. So that does seem to make him sober up and kind of look at her completely differently and himself more honestly. So I like that, because for a movie from 1980, it's not really typical. But in any event, after she throws him out and he's driving drunk back, he almost gets hit by a large big rig, which he had also almost been run off the road by earlier. And this time he really kind of notices the trucks because, they, like I said, they almost hit him, and it's the same trucks from the other night. So the next day, I think, or the day after, another couple cattle mutilations happen, and the ranchers now are really pissed off, and they go to the police department, and they dump the body of the cow there because they want the paper to, like the local papers to pick it up. They want to make this now something where the cops have to do something. Like they're now losing all their patience. And so it just so happens that Urich shows up, of course, while this is all going on, and comes in because he wants to ask the newspaper guy about the big rig trucks, because now he's almost been run off the road twice by them. And when he followed them the second time, he came up to a fenced off area that basically said, hey, lethal force, this is a, government facility, something like that. And so he's trying to figure out what this is all about. And he shows up at the police station right after the cattle has been dumped there, and goes in to ask the newspaper guy about the big rig trucks and what the property is.
Listen, Joe, I'm going to be leaving in the morning.
Can't leave now.
I can't stay here, Joe. It's the same old habits. I get involved with a little police work, I don't know when to stop.
You're a good cop. I need you.
Yeah, I'm a good cop. Made a fool of myself in front of your sheriff.
She's a big girl, Ruben.
Anyway, I got my car fixed. I'm going to take Mac fishing like I promised.
Want some really good fishing?
Here.
Cows, dead cows. Let me know how this all comes out, huh? I'll give you a call. Hey, Joe, you ever see a couple of big grain company trucks hauling ass on the highway? Trans Grain Outlet or something like that.
No, what?
Well, last night, after Harry's, I followed a couple. I'd seen them on the highway before. They have big spoilers on the front, very fast. Found myself about, 5 miles east of 99 on a dirt road. There was a restricted entry sign on a barbed wire fence.
That's NORAD Road. That's where the old missile silos were.
Missile silos?
Yeah. I mean, we were part of the defense system from Canada down to Texas.
Yeah.
But the Air Force abandoned those about 10 years ago.
Yeah. I saw some kind of light underground.
Shouldn't be any power out there.
Who owns that land?
The government leases it from one of the local ranchers.
Who?
I'll find out.
Now, about 2 seconds after that discussion, the rancher who you heard at the end of the first clip comes in and basically tells the newspaper guy, hey, stop sniffing around this stuff. You're making a lot of bad press for people, and you're getting all kinds of conspiracy theories in the air, and we caught the guys who did it, and just shut up about this. And who would you guess, even though it's not revealed right then, but who would you guess might be the rancher who's leasing the land to the government?
Him.
Right, of
it's
course.
Him. Yeah.
And you know that instantly, and Urich observes the fact that he more or less threatens the reporter. Now, his threat that Urich hears is, I'll just buy this paper and just throw you out of here. And the newspaper guy says, no, you won't do that, because then I'll make a bigger deal of it wherever I go next, that you came in and shut this story down. But Urich observes all of this. And so right after that, the newspaper guy is suddenly killed, has a random heart attack. And, of course, Urich is immediately suspicious, goes to the sheriff and says, look, I heard him threaten the newspaper guy. Do me a favor. Take some of the cattle organs from the thing that was dropped off in front of your department and send it to this guy I know in New York. Send it somewhere outside of here and have them look at it and see if what they tell you matches up what's going on here. Because now at this point, he's like, something is off. And his immediate suspicion is, accurately, that it is the rancher who threatened him. Now, he doesn't have any proof of that, but basically at this point, he's now concerned, again, correctly, that there are multiple points of compromise within the local government. Not that the sheriff's in on it, but that there are people who are compromised, and so he doesn't trust anything coming out of the local autopsy, the cops besides the sheriff, the rest of it. So she sends it off. She agrees to send it off because, she too suspects something is going on. Not necessarily agreeing with what he's saying, but that there are clearly things going on and that something is up. So she sends it off, and then the autopsy guy calls her back with the results, and the results are rather fascinating. So this is the call where he tells her what's going on.
The test results from the cattle organs you sent me are interesting.
Really? What'd you find?
First, the incisions. Laser surgery is what I'd have to guess. And we also found traces of a rare bacterium, Clostridia botulium.
What?
Botulium. It's a poison, extremely deadly. And this particular strain has been modified by gene splicing.
Where does it come from?
Well, I've never signed my name to this. Lieutenant Castle did say you wouldn't quote me.
No, I won't.
Yes, well, the only place I've ever heard of it showing up was in some germ warfare test that the government was doing back before this was all done, back in 1969 and 1970. So what have you got going on out there?
And of course, now we're basically
the music.
Yeah,
the music kicks in. Huh?
The music's great. Yeah, again, it comes in weird and it's interesting, but it's weirdly deployed. This, of course, is confirmation of exactly what the movie told us at the opening, which is that this is some kind of germ warfare, biological research experiment using the cattle because it's not, well, that's their way of doing it covertly. So, of course, the sheriff goes and tells Urich that, what they found, and Urich is pissed off and says, okay, so this must be that Ben's got to be in on it. And so he follows him, and when he follows him, he hangs back and he sees the rancher calls somebody who shows up in a stealth helicopter, a black stealth helicopter, and is in army fatigues, gets off there. He can't hear what they're saying. We can. And what the rancher is basically saying, hey, I told you I would take care of the reporter. And the military guy's like, well, you didn't, so I took care of it. And he's like, you better watch it because I will expose this whole thing. And he's like, yeah, well, then you better watch what you're doing. So obviously, this rancher's a moron. I mean, how stupid do you have to be to threaten these type of people? But of course, he thinks, that he's the big ball sack in the county. So he thinks he can do whatever he wants, which we know is going to result in him dying. But shortly after that...
That's usually how it works.
That's usually how, and that is how it's going to work. But after that meeting, Urich goes and meets up with the sheriff to basically tell her, hey, I was right. This guy's involved, and these people are doing something. This is some kind of, covert experiment involving the cattle. And they have this discussion. And the interesting part about this discussion is I like the way that it ends with Urich basically saying... that everybody is basically a bad guy once you start getting into the extreme areas of it. So this is their discussion about what he found when he went and tailed the guy.
The government killed a couple of thousand sheep a few years ago in Utah. You said it was an accident, but it was nerve gas testing. Why experiment on our cows? I mean, why not do it on government land? Who would know?
Ooh. Couple hundred government guys pulling scum duty on federal land somewhere? No, doesn't sound like this operation. I mean, you and I were both in the Army. It doesn't work like that. I mean, these guys are too mobile. They move around too quickly unnoticed. And I'll tell you something else. That Army surplus type in the helicopter, he's not GI. These guys are playing Uncle Sam. It's not the government.
How do you know?
I know.
Not government? Who else would be doing germ warfare testing?
Well, I can't give you their phone number, but it's a cheap, effective way to kill a hell of a lot of people.
Look, this is getting a little wild. I mean, this is all speculation.
If what's going on around here is organized, you don't want to go up against it. The government, the right wing, the left wing, mercenaries, the mob. It doesn't make much difference if you get in their way.
This is the one interesting part of the movie is basically they never say it is the government. Even though the guys are dressed in government issue stuff and have these modified helicopters, they never really say who it is, which I think is the movie's attempt to not say it's the government in case they thought they might get in trouble for saying it.
Yeah.
It's just because he says, I don't know who it is. I'm just telling you it's not the government because of the way they're operating. So they never really say who it is. But I mean, it sure looks like it's supposed to be like the CIA or something.
Private contractors.
Right. So after that, then the rancher is poisoned. And this scene... This whole segment with him is almost out of a different movie because it is so over the top in terms of gore. Because the rest of it, we've seen basically cows mutilated. When the guy had the heart attack, you don't really see anything. He's just slumped over. So there's really very little blood or anything up to this point. But they basically put something on his toothbrush, which essentially looks like fast-acting Ebola. Or maybe it's supposed to be botulism. I don't know what botulism does to you. But he brushes his teeth with it, and he starts bleeding from his mouth, at which point Urich bursts into his office and is like, aha, I knew you were involved in this. And he basically kidnaps this guy who's dying in front of him, and he makes him drive. He's vomiting blood, and he's making him drive along. But the guy gets so sick that he basically crashes the car. Urich falls out of it. The guy walks out of the road, and then his guts explode all over the place, and he dies. So then, of course, all the cops show up, and they arrest Urich because They think he did something to him. I mean, the sheriff doesn't think so, but she can't really. She does have to arrest him because it was a kidnapping, even though she doesn't believe that he killed her.
Yeah.
He does. She does believe that what he's saying about this, because they had their meeting, is what's going on. And as they're having this discussion elsewhere, that lawyer from earlier comes down and goes up to Urich and says, "Hey, by the way, we have your daughter. So if you keep your mouth shut for 24 hours, we'll finish up what we're doing. We're going to leave, and we will give you your daughter back. Otherwise, she's dead, and we'll just test on her." And so, of course, Urich tells the sheriff this, and she gets him out, and they sneak into this military outpost. And unbeknownst to them, I think, at this point, the ranchers and everybody else in town has lost their patience, and a whole mass of people just start coming down on this military complex because they have found out what is going on there, what the rumors are. So they're just now lynch mobbing their way to this military outpost. So Urich and the sheriff break in. They manage to get the daughter out, and all these people start evacuating right as all the vigilante groups start, which is like 400 cars, just all ranchers with shotguns, all kinds of shit show up. But meanwhile, all the trucks leave, the helicopter disappears, and the last thing we see is that one of the helicopter that's leaving drops the dead cow that it had just kidnapped, and then disappears into the night, and everybody watches, and the screen goes black, and then it comes up and it just says, since 1969 there have been 10,000 cattle mutilations for unknown reasons, and then the credits come up, and that's the end of the movie. So
I do like that they never say what it is then.
No, they never say who the people actually are
and what they're doing.
And
even
even the guys who get killed in the ensuing fight with Urich and everybody, they take the bodies. They leave no bodies. It's like the only thing left in the entire complex is like a bit of blood on the floor. Otherwise, everything is disappeared and cleaned up. They all get away, and the helicopter disappears.
I think that's really well done in that respect.
It's a really well done movie. I mean, again, it's a movie that you view today very differently than you used to, but for what it is, I think it's actually really well done, and I liked it quite a bit. Everybody in it is playing it very straight. It's very serious. It's an interesting movie because, again, they never really say what's going on, which I like. They give you a bunch of theories. They obviously do try to rule out that it's a satanic cult or that it's UFOs. There's never any point where that ever seems to be seriously something that could be going on. But there's also that line where he says it's not the government. So you sit there and go, well, then who was it? Who are these people? But you don't ever know. So it's hard to say who they, just because, I mean, don't get me wrong, militias and those type of groups also dress in military fatigue. So it could have been something like that. Yeah. We don't really know, but that's what makes it interesting.
Or they just didn't want to get sued. Yeah.
or they didn't want to say that specifically so that they wouldn't get, the government coming down on them. Could be. So, and this movie was apparently based at least partially on actual journalistic investigations into cattle mutilations for something like 2 years. Now, I don't know that any of those investigations made any actual conclusions or if they took the facts of what it was and the possibilities and they just kind of mixed it into this movie. But I liked it. I thought it was a very good movie. It was, I think I watched it. Where did I watch this? I'm trying to remember. I don't remember if I saw this on Amazon or not. I'm trying to remember. Let's see, just so I can tell people where it is. It's not hard to find. Let's see. It is on, this one is on Prime, and I think it's also on Tubi, if I remember correctly. It doesn't say it here, but I don't trust IMDb anymore for this type of stuff. So if you're into this kind of movie, I think it's actually a very good example of it. Urich is very good. Jo Beth Williams is very good. I like the fact that they don't resolve it. Like you said, that's a really a plus point for it. The score, while at times not properly utilized, is interesting. It's directed very well. Like I said, this is not a cheap looking production. The only thing I would have changed is I would not have put that opening title card, because when the cattle are being abducted, it looks like it might be aliens because you just see like a bright red light and that weird music comes in, but you don't see the chopper. Then at one point you see these like snake-like appendages that come down and grab the cattle. Well, they're attached to the helicopter, you find out. But without that title card, you might actually wonder what it's about. And there's parts where they're showing the people that are cutting up the cattle. And at first they're in shadow and they're wearing gas masks, but the way it's lit, it might have been aliens. But again, the opening title card pretty much tells you that you know what it's going to be. So
and the director clearly wanted you to not be in that mindset.
I guess, but then why do the mystery lighting on it? You know what I mean? It seems odd
because they wanted it to be a mystery, but they didn't want it to be that kind of mystery.
I guess, yeah. So but like I said, that to me would make it more interesting.
We spent the whole beginning of the show talking about the intent of directors.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
it
makes sense that was he wanted to put you in the right place for what he wanted to tell you.
Well, in any event, I think it's a good movie. Even if I myself would have edited out those opening title cards, it still works really well, and everybody in it is really good. And like I said, if you like something like Hangar 18, those type of movies, this is an interesting one, especially because while I guess they don't rule out satanic cults, but most satanic cults aren't dressing in army fatigues and have a stealth helicopter. So
no, they're not really organized like that.
Yeah, the only thing they really rule out is aliens. There are never any indications or any type of ties at all to aliens. This is all germ warfare. So it's clearly a terrestrial threat. So maybe there were Satanists that had access to really good military surplus equipment. I don't know. I can't speak with any authority to that. But in any event, good movie. Enjoyed it quite a bit, but it is a paranoid conspiracy thriller. So if you're looking for something that is the opposite of that, something that is heartwarming and endearing and lovely and pretty much almost an all audiences type of recommendation movie, then you would do very well to watch a movie from 1988 called Tokyo Pop. Now, if you've ever seen the Sofia Coppola movie Lost in Translation, then you've pretty much seen this movie already, or at least a version of this type of story. It is very, very close in terms of what the story is. It's by the same director who later did the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie. I believe this was her first movie. I could be wrong about that.
Really?
I think this is her first one. Because 1988 was Tokyo Pop, and then 1992 was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Yeah. So this was her first movie. Yeah. And so this movie is, as I said, very similar to Lost in Translation in that, except with some minor changes. This one is about a woman, a singer, a rock and roll singer named Wendy, who gets very frustrated about the fact that she is not able to really be a lead singer in a band in New York City in 1988. And so she's hit this point of frustration. And just as she's kind of had it with everything, she happens to get a postcard from I believe a model friend of hers, or at least some friend of hers who's living in Japan and loves it over there. And so she decides she's going to embark over there. And we get the explanation of what her frustrations and what she's going to Japan for in this little opening bit here.
Dear Jane, got your postcard. Must be fake, because I just saw this thing on TV about American rockers becoming stars in Japan. Figure if they can do it, so can I. I'm tired of singing backup for creeps. Hope you meant it when you said wish you were here, because I'm coming to Japan. Love, Wendy.
But why Japan?
Because this entire city sucks.
Well, what's wrong with L.A.?
L.A. sucks, too. It's just the weather's better. Look at this. You know what this is?
What is this, a trick question? Mount Fuji.
No. Peace of mind. That's what this is.
No kidding.
Yeah. I really like American singers over there, you know? Taxi!
So she gets on a plane, spends all her money to go over to Japan, thinking that she's going to, be able to live with her friend and be able to make it as a singer. Gets to Japan to immediately find out that her friend has moved to Thailand. And she does not have the money to be able to go to Thailand. So now she's kind of stuck. But she does luckily run into somebody who says, oh, okay, you're an American that's stuck here without a job or anything. Well, there's a hotel for foreigners who want to live in Japan and don't have any money. And they direct her to it. And it's almost, I guess, a Japanese version of a hostel for foreigners, because there's an Irish guy there and there's a British guy there. And there's other people who are basically expatriates from someplace else. And the person who runs the hotel kind of helps get them jobs, sort of off the books jobs where they can do things. And so she ends up as a hostess. So she's in basically a karaoke bar hostess.
Oh, You mean like a hostess?
Well, I mean,
or just like
hostesses aren't prostitutes. If that's where you're going, it's just
I know
where she
that.
sits with
Okay.
businessmen and they sings karaoke with them. Yes, that's
okay.
That's
Yeah. Okay, that kind of hostess. Got
yes. And she's miserable because she's not really singing. They don't have any appreciation for her voice. They just want to hang out with her because she's a very tall, blonde, busty American. And so she's basically kind of stuck. And she's almost broke because she doesn't get paid right away. And so there's a point where she is trying to catch the last train back to her hotel and she misses the train. So she's stuck somewhere and she doesn't have enough money to get a cab to bring her back there either. And so she goes to get something to eat, and it's coincidentally the same place that a Japanese man named Hiro and his band are. And Hiro is part of a band that basically sings American cover songs because in Japan, that's one of the ways that you can get on TV and you can be popular is to sing cover songs of American songs. And he's very frustrated, kind of a equal to Wendy, where he wants to sing his own songs. He wants to actually make his band into something, but the only way they're finding any success is just by imitating American songs. And he's very frustrated with it, and he's not happy either. And he happens to see her, and the reason he goes up to her is because his bandmates make a bet that he can't pick her up. So he goes up to her, and he's like, oh, sure, I can pick her up, and goes up to her. And so this starts off as him just trying to see if he can get her number, and instead it goes into a bit of a different direction.
Arigato. Here. Thanks.
Hey, madam. You're welcome. You speak Japanese?
Only that and bathroom. Benjo.
One thing. I think you move me.
Jimi Hendrix, huh?
Sure.
It's really American.
Sure. Thank you. Would you like to take a drink?
Look, could I have a rain check?
Check?
I missed the last train, and I'm really tired, and I want to go home, but I don't have a map of where I live. Hey, look, if I get a taxi, could you explain to the driver where I live? It's in Itabashi at the Mickey House, you know?
Sure.
Is it expensive to take a taxi to Itabashi? I don't have a whole lot of money.
Sure.
Shit. Look, I've only been in Japan a little over 2 weeks, 16 days, really. I'm a singer, rock and roll, like you, right? So I come here to visit my... Well, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, I wind up at this place, the Mickey House, and I don't have any money, so one of the girls gets me a job at a hostess club. Anyway, they don't pay until the end of the third week, and I'm really, really broke right now, and I missed the last train, and it's just... It's a hell of a night, you know? Really sucks.
Oh, sucks.
Yeah, sucks. Oh, I'm so tired. Oh, maybe I should go to a hotel.
Hotel? I can introduce a nice hotel.
Go to a hotel? I don't have any money.
You need money?
Yeah, I need money for a hotel.
I can pay.
Wait a minute. Really? You can pay?
Sure.
No strings?
No strings.
Okay, because I'm not looking for any grief, you know what I mean?
Sure. No grief.
Right. No hassles.
Sure.
Look, I promise I'll pay you back every yen.
Sure.
All right?
Now, as you've probably picked up from that, Hiro doesn't exactly speak fluent English. So what he thinks she means by go to a hotel, of course, is, oh, let's go to a love hotel. And Wendy doesn't really know what those are until they get to one. And then they get in the room and she looks around and realizes, oh, that's what this hotel is for. This is basically a hotel where people go to have sex. And so she gets very pissed off and she like knocks him down and she says, I'm going to sleep in the bathroom. You try to touch me and I'm going to rip your dick off. And so Hiro, of course, is confused, but it's one of those things where he does actually start to like her. You know, she's not overly vicious and he doesn't attempt anything. He just didn't understand exactly what was going on. He was under the impression that she meant let's go and, you know, get a hotel together. And of course she just wants to go to sleep. Mm-hmm. So basically after that point, she ditches him and she leaves. And so you see, you know, he's at home and, he's kind of thinking about her, and he's also unhappy, and and then there's this festival where it's basically it's a Japanese festival celebrating Americans. So you see the pompadours, and people are singing Elvis music and like dancing, like American dancing and all this stuff. And Wendy and Hero's there because it's a good place to go and sing your songs that people see, and Hero looks completely and utterly bored and miserable at it. And then, of course, Wendy coincidentally shows up, and she's trying to find anybody who can direct her to someplace where she can sing music. And so while she's there, Hero spots her, goes up to her, and of course, her initial impression is get lost, whatever. And he's like, no. He's like, I'm not trying to hit on you or anything like that. He's like, maybe you can sing with us. Maybe, you can be in the band or something. Because the band's like, yeah, you get an American girl, and that gives us a gimmick. So that's a great idea. Why don't you try to, talk her up and see if she'll be willing to? And Hero kind of brings it up, but he's not immediately trying to talk her into it because he knows, at least partially, that means that they won't want to play his songs. They're just going to want her to sing. But in the midst of the fact that they're both kind of frustrated singers, they start to have a bit of a romance. They're starting to get along. They actually start to want to spend time with each other regardless of all the music stuff because she realizes he's not a bad guy. It was just kind of a miscommunication. And he actually likes her because she's similar to him. He realizes that she has this kind of longing to be able to be known for her music and to sing the songs she wants to sing. And so they start to date. And there's a point where we get an explanation because Wendy's basically doing a lot of the talking because, of course, she's, New York City woman. And Hero basically doesn't say much about himself. And so she wants to find out, why he's saying, why don't you ever talk about yourself? And they have this discussion as they're eating food one night.
Hero,
Yeah.
how come you never talk about yourself?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Japanese people don't talk about themselves.
Why not?
I don't know.
I want to know more about you.
Really? Like what?
I don't know. How come you play rock and roll?
When I was a schoolboy, my classmate didn't like me because I'm not Tokyo boy.
Where are you from?
The country, Yamagata.
Yamagata.
So, I thought, if I could be a singer, everybody would see me special.
Well, then how come you sing other people's songs? Why don't you write your own?
I write sometimes. But nobody wants to hear my songs. They're in Japanese and about me.
I want to hear your songs.
Really? I want to be a real rock and roller. I should sing in English. Like Mick Jagger and John Lennon and Frank Sinatra.
Who?
Frank Sinatra. My way. My way.
Sinatra?
Yeah.
You want to sing like Frank Sinatra?
Yeah.
Really?
So they are getting into this romance and they're getting into each other. And then there's a point where he brings up, he's like, hey, do you want to join the band? And, we could try to see if we could work our songs into it. Maybe we can make it work. Because she's very big on, as he said in that, there's a Japanese way of doing things, and that's how he's used to it being. But Wendy, not being from Japan, is very much like, well, you don't have to do everything everybody else does. Maybe we can make this work, right? So she's got this idea that, if there's ways around what everybody thinks is the way to do things. And so finally he says, okay, join the band. The band is thrilled. The band is thrilled because now they have a gimmick. And so they like many other bands, are trying to play their songs in front of this big record producer, and the record producer has no interest because everybody's doing the same thing. And so they keep trying to get their demo tape to him, and finally Wendy's like, give me the goddamn demo tape. And she basically not breaks it. She walks into the office, and of course, because she's not concerned about politeness or Japanese customs or whatever, she basically just walks into the guy's office and like throws the tape down and says, listen to this. And he, of course, looks at her, and she's this tall, striking, beautiful American woman. And so he does. And he goes, okay, because it's a cover of Do You Believe in Magic, that song. And so he listens to it, and he's like, okay, that's an American cover song. You're in the band. Now I'm interested. And so he says, okay, I'll give you guys a shot. And everybody's thrilled except for Hero. The band's thrilled. Wendy's like, yeah, this is great. And so they're going to put on a performance, they find out, at a wrestling gig that is a televised wrestling match in Japan. And so Hero is it looks very not happy. And Wendy's like, what is the problem? And he basically explains.
Toto wants us to be the wrestlers' opening act. I know. We have to audition for next week.
Wait a minute, audition? What do you mean audition?
Younger wrestlers used to sing, but that's not popular anymore. They want something new.
Oh. The blonde guy changed.
Forget it. Let's go.
Wait a minute. We'll be on TV, right?
Yes, like a circus act.
But it's still TV. National TV. It's rock and roll.
It's not rock and roll. We can't do this, Wendy.
Why?
If we play here, they'll never invite us to a festival or best hits on TV.
Come on, Hero. All they have to do is hear the band.
You don't understand about Japan.
Why? Because I'm not Japanese? Hero, this is national television. This is our big chance.
This is no chance. Nobody does it this way.
Well, just because nobody does it this way doesn't mean that we can't. Why do you have to do what everybody else does? Why do you have to be so Japanese about everything?
We are not playing here.
Oh, that's it, huh? That's your final word?
Yes.
Well, forget this.
And obviously what this is he understands what this is. This is a gimmick. And if they do this, they're only ever going to be a gimmick. Wendy, of course, has this American attitude that, well, fuck the way they do it. We can just break the rules, which, well, on the one hand, sure, that's a great attitude sometimes. That's not Japan. And that whole thing about you don't understand Japan, that's throughout the whole movie. You get that part of it there. But he's been telling her this the whole time, and she just doesn't want to hear it because she thinks that things are different here because she wants them to be different here. And so she gets ready to run out of the room and just bail on the whole thing because she's pissed off. And as she opens the door to leave, it so happens that the record producer is coming in and there's a photographer there, and Hero goes to grab her to try to stop her, and they take a picture. And so there's this picture that gets put in the paper of her being grabbed by Hero and then the record producer looking shocked, and it becomes this sensationalist thing where suddenly now they're known. And because of the publicity, now the record producer's like, no, you're right. We're going to push you past that and we're going to promote you. And so now they become famous. Now they're all over the place. Now they're making money because now the gimmick is Hero and Wendy as the blonde American woman and the Japanese rock star. And so that is the gimmick. And so things are going great. They're getting this great apartment. They're playing all over the place. They don't have to worry about money. And so there's a point where they're in a club one night and they're sitting there and Hero is like getting drinks or something off there. And the rest of the band is sitting there and there's a guy there and he says, hey, you're a pretty looking girl. Do you maybe want to come model for me? And she's like, no, I'm not a model. She says, I'm a singer. And he's like, yeah. But when that's over with in 6 months, do you want to come model for me? And she's like, what do you mean? He says, you're not going to last. This is a gimmick thing. That's how it works here. He's like, how long does the contract that the guy gave you? And she says, 6 months, but then we can renew. And he's like, yeah, you might want to renew, but he's not going to renew with you because the Japanese fall out of love of things really fast. You're going to be in this for the short term, and then it's going to be over with. And now that it's somebody besides Hero telling her, somebody who has no connection, no personal investment, saying the same thing, now Wendy starts to understand, wait a minute, maybe he was right. That maybe this is just a fad thing where the only reason they're interested in us is because of me. And when that evaporates, so does all of our success. And so she starts to become really depressed. And there's a point where they move into this really big lavish apartment. And, like I said, they're not wanting for money. They're booked on all this stuff. And there's this upcoming festival where they're going to be the center act. And what they're expected to do is play that same song, Do You Believe in Magic? Right? So they're sitting there and they're talking about where they are in life and, what they want to do. And this is their conversation. They're sitting, but you'll hear water in the background. They're sitting there near their apartment, just kind of overlooking the ocean and the city and talking to each other. And they say one thing, but of course, once you get to the end of the clip, their facial expressions say something else. You'll probably pick up what it is, but I'll talk about it after this.
How many times do you think we've played Do You Believe in Magic?
Maybe 100 times.
I really wish we could play something different. Something real. Like your song.
I I don't think so.
Why?
You understand?
Well, I guess this is it.
What?
What we wanted. I'm gonna be famous. Make some money.
Yeah.
You happy?
Yeah. Are you happy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I'm sure you can guess their facial expressions are not ones of happiness. What becomes very clear is they're happy with each other because they understand each other. They're not happy with the fact that they both now understand what their success is going to be and that it probably will not last. And this becomes worse and worse for Wendy. Hero is just kind of resigned himself to it, and I don't know if he's okay with it, but I think it's more of the fact that his family has told him at times, you're never going to make it in music in any way, get a real job. And so for him, this is at least something, if not everything. But Wendy does not have that level of, okay, I'm fine with this. And so you see her just looking around at like the magazines where it's the two of them on the cover, and she sees the videos of them singing the song that they've sung over and over and over, and she becomes increasingly more upset. And so finally there's a point where, we're towards the end of the movie now, where they're booked on this big national festival. This big thing where they're going to go out and play this song again, and this is going to be probably the pinnacle of whatever their success is going to be, because it's a big nationally televised thing where they're celebrities and they're going to go play this thing. And, they both realize that this is probably the top of wherever they're going to get with this version of success. And so she comes back, and Hero immediately sees that something is wrong and asks her what's going on.
What are you doing, Wendy? We're really late.
Hero, I'm so confused. I don't want to go to the concert. I want to go home.
Why?
This isn't rock and roll. It's just Tokyo pop.
We can do it again. We can do it right.
Hero, you can't have a band with me. No one hears our music. They look at my skin and my eyes and my hair. As long as I'm in the band, you're never gonna have what you want.
I don't want you to go.
I don't belong here. If I stay here with you in Japan, I'll never know if I can make it. I'll always be the gaijin, the freak. I have to go.
Wendy? Come on. Come to the concert with me.
Why?
I know you leave soon. But we can't disappoint the band. Can't you just do that for me?
And so she goes with him, and so they show up, and right about when they're about to go on stage, and they go on there, and what we find out is that the two of them have plotted, but she gets dressed up, but she does not go on the stage. Hero goes out and says, I'm going to sing one of my songs, and sings this song that's essentially about Wendy, about how he doesn't want her to leave, but she inspires him and she knows that he has to go and he loves her. And it's this really beautiful song. And of course, everybody responds to it. Everybody loves it. It's his own song, which is exactly what he wanted. And then after that, we see her going to the airport and she leaves. And at the very end of the movie, you see her going into a studio and she takes a picture of Hero and she puts it down and she sings this song. And it's about Hero and the fact that, he loved her enough to let her go. And, and so without him, she wouldn't have been able to do this. And that's the way the movie ends. The credits come up as she's singing the song. And so the both of them, they couldn't stay together, but without each other, they never would have gotten to the places that they were. And it's just a really beautiful movie when most of life is fucking miserable and there's lots of shit that sucks. This was just a wonderful, like I said, this beautiful movie where even though they couldn't be together, they are important in each other's lives and it got them to where they needed to be. So I fucking loved it. Like, I am a sucker for movies like this when they're done right, and this movie was done right. There's lots of really good music in it. The two leads are great. There is nothing I have to say about this movie that's bad whatsoever. I fucking adored it. It was great. And it's $5 to rent on Kino Lorber, who puts out a lot of these independent movies. They have their own service called Kino Now, and it's $5. It's about an hour and a half long. The only reason I wouldn't recommend it for basically any age, any audience is when they're at the Love Hotel, there's lots of nudity all over the walls and they are basically showing a Japanese porn on the TV that you see, even though it's got the black box. She actually asked him, what's the black box? He's like, oh, you can't show that in Japan. So it's over their crotches. Outside of that, I mean, it would basically be PG-13 and up. That would be the only kind of iffy moment. You could skip it. Everything else, I think, is I think it's a really positive message that, hey, you might meet people, and even though it might not work out the way you thought, that doesn't mean they're not important. It doesn't mean that it's not worth having these relationships. Even if you think it's somebody you're in love with and it doesn't work out that way, it doesn't mean that it wasn't worth them being in your lives. That's the main message of the movie, and I think it's really well done. I honestly, Lost in Translation is a better made movie, but I love this movie in a way that I never liked.
Well, it feels, I mean, it doesn't feel so similar to Lost in Translation to like that you shouldn't, see Lost in Translation.
No, but this one feels, I felt better at the end of this one than I did in Lost in Translation.
Got it.
This one is, even though they're both bittersweet, I think this one ends in a way that is more encouraging, I guess, because in this one, you could imagine they might actually get back together at some point. That like sometime in the future, they could be back together in some way.
Well, yeah, and in Lost in Translation, they should never really be together to some extent in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that's what I mean. I'm not saying necessarily one is quote unquote better than the other, but this one I think sticks with me more. I like this one better because of the fact that they're age appropriate and a couple. And that even though they don't stay together, it's not some terrible split where they're miserable and they hate the fact that they were like, there's none of that. It's actually the most optimistic breakup I think I've seen depicted in quite a while. Certainly in movies of this type.
Apparently that's Carol Burnett's daughter.
Yeah, she died really young. She was, I guess, on drugs and stuff, and I think she got lung cancer.
Lung and brain cancer.
Yeah, it's a bummer because, that's another thing. Both of the leads perform their own songs. So that's them singing, and they sing the songs, which is something else that I love because that's not normally what you see in movies like this. You might have one or two, but not. And the songs are really good. The songs in this movie are really good, including their songs are really good songs. So that's even better. And I love the fact that it ends with her singing her song, and that's the credits.
She died more than 20 years ago.
Yeah. Crazy.
How crazy is that?
Yeah, she died young. I think she was 39 or something like that.
She was 38.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Crazy.
Because she's really good in this. Both of them are.
Yeah.
And that guy is in Lost in Translation. I think he's in the karaoke scene, which is kind of funny. Yeah, he's in the movie. Diamond Yukai, I don't know how you pronounce it, but he's in Lost in Translation as well. He's a composer and a singer. So he's in a band called Red Warrior, I think is the name of the band, something like that. But anyway, like I said, outside of the Love Hotel scene, you could almost show this to, I mean, you wouldn't show it to young children. They'd be bored. But the message of even if every relationship, I mean, when you're young and you have first or second love and it ends, it's usually fucking awful. It's terrible. World's going to end. Like, there's no upside to it. This movie presents a version of that where it's like, I mean, obviously most people are not going to be crossing oceans and, rock bands or whatever, but it's the underlying message of there are people that you can love even if love doesn't end up where you think it is, and it's still valuable and you can still grow and it can still be a positive experience even if it doesn't last. And again, that to me is somewhat unusual where it's depicted this well. And that's why I think it's a really good movie. And I just liked everything about it, really.
And then she went to direct Buffy.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's such a strange.
Yeah, because this is high 80s New York and Japan, which is awesome.
She was also the producer. Oh, I don't think she directed it. She was the producer.
Oh, I thought they said it was her. I thought she directed it. I thought they said she did direct it. I mean, she could have produced it too, but let me see.
No, you're right. She was the director. Yeah, she was. Yeah, but she was
and
also she also produced apparently Buffy on the show. Yeah, she produced on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel. She produced on Orgasmo.
An interesting career for sure.
That is an interesting career. Yes.
Yeah, and this one I think you can only rent, but it is absolutely worth $5. It's excellent, and like I said.
Oh no, she had nothing to do with the series. No.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
No. In any event, it's I like Buffy the Vampire Slayer the movie too, but this is a great little film, and
it's an early art film that she did.
Yeah, and it's not. I mean, it feels independent, but it's very well done. I mean, there's several shots which are really good. One where Wendy is walking against a crowd of all people in black suits, black hair, and of course she's tall and blonde, and you see her walking against all the crowd, and that's her whole attitude. So there's all this nice visual stuff. They took a really good advantage of the locations where they were. If you're into this version of Japan, which is a lot of old neon and physical signs, and before it was all LEDs and screens and everything else, there's a very tactile quality to everything. It's just really wonderful, and the fashion is fucking bonkers, which is also great. So, yeah.
Well, it sounds great.
So basically, you have two ends of the spectrum with my reviews. You can either go deep into the paranoid conspiracy well, where everything's going to kill you somehow secretly because they're experimenting everywhere. Or you can look at, hey, once in a while you take a chance, and even if it didn't work out the way you thought, it was still worth taking the chance. So you really have both ends of the spectrum on this one. So whatever you do, enjoy what I guess would be the first weekend of 2024. So I've given you the worst and the best to start off your year. So enjoy that, and we will talk to you again next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.